Chapter 1318 Always a step ahead. Madame Shun is from the Sunshine Pavilion. She's the mistress, controlling all its power. However, despite its poetic name, the pavilion is, in fact, a chain of brothels that target cultivators, including emperors and empyreans. All the pavilion's women, and men, cultivate yin-yang Dao or a source technique about dual cultivation. Cultivators can visit when they need some help with their cultivation. If they pay for the lowest Tier 1 service, they can dual cultivate with a partner of their choice, but only through holding hands. Such service is crucial to cultivators below rank 10 as they can use it to break through bottlenecks, but it can only provide some cultivation bonus to great emperors and other paths. Tier 2 services involve physical intercourse, and the effects are even better. It's possible to increase a person's cultivation by a few % if they have just become great emperors. Tier 3 services involved women with their primordial yin and yang intact, making the process even more potent. That's not to mention other benefits like tempering the body and soul. Tier 4 and 5 services involve people with special physiques, with the difference being that Tier 5 girls also have their primordial yin and yang preserved. In the cultivation world, there is something called a cauldron physique. A unique physique with excellent dual cultivation properties. Devil cultivators love this type of physique as it is the best way to strengthen their foundation, and other cultivators love it because it's the best way to break through bottlenecks. Of course, women despise it because this physique primarily exists in women, and the fate of the cauldron is always terrible. The Sunshine Pavilion provided cauldrons but at an exuberant price. All their prices are beyond expensive, but Tier 4 reaches another stratosphere, and that's because the price also involves numeration to ensure the owner of the cauldron physique can recuperate. Well, at least, that's their explanation of why the price is so expensive, but people know better. Cauldrons have terrible fates because others forcefully plunder their primordial yin, injuring their bodies and souls and even destroying their cultivation foundation. However, the Sunshine Pavilion used a harmonious yin-yang dual cultivation technique, meaning the cauldron physiques benefit the owner instead of harming them. So, everyone with some knowledge knows their so-called price is bullshit. Unfortunately, many people rush to utilize their services despite knowing this. Most people's talent cannot take them far after becoming immortal, so after being stuck in one place for millions of yuan epochs, many people will pay the price of an increase of 1% in their cultivation. Even people with talent and resources will suffer from bottlenecks, and sometimes, using the Sunshine Pavilion services might be cheaper than the alternative methods of their factions. Emperor Kong has dealt with the Sunshine Pavilion, not because he used their services but because they are also one of the largest spy networks in the world. When men are in their most relaxed state, they can easily open their mouths and spill information. Meanwhile, the women who use the pavilion services are often secretive about it due to societal pressure, making it easier to get information about them. Lastly, the pavilion has a system in which they can offer discounts if someone provides them with valuable information. With all their branches scattered worldwide, the Sunshine Pavilion is among the best in the information business, so Emperor Kong has dealt with them. However, his problem with Madame Shun is not her business or some kind of contradiction that happened between them. She wanted to open a yin-yang school in the academy. Her request immediately sent the academy into chaos. Some elders agreed as they know that yin-yang Dao is one of the supreme paths of cultivation no matter which form it is practiced. Meanwhile, others vehemently denied this request, believing such a method of practicing yin-yang Dao contradicts many of the core ideologies about the literary way. They've been arguing for more than 50 million years since Madame Shun made that request, and the only way to end this debate is for the dean to decide. Emperor Kong has no problem opening the yin-yang school. Since his path is to enlighten all sentient beings, he would not exclude anyone. His hesitation is because of the true owner of the Sunshine Pavilion. I don't want to deal with that crazy woman, Emperor Kong sighed, feeling a headache coming. Wang Wei was a problem, but he was still a reasonable person, but that woman was not. She could attack the academy without any reason. It would be a nightmare if she had an actual reason. If I don't make a choice soon, that will be reason enough for her to act against me or the academy. Emperor Kong once again felt frustrated. He could not beat her, and he might even suffer terribly if he angered her. All right, I'll deal with her. Master, what are you going to do? Lin Fan asked. He knew how complicated the issue of Madame Shun was. I'll tell her we can start the yin-yang school in the academy's branches as a test trial, Emperor Kong said. That should satisfy her for now while also preventing that crazy woman from having any direct connection to the main branch. Emperor Kong sighed as he flew away. He decided to spend a few days with Master Shang to isolate himself from the world. This should soothe his mind. Then he'll go on a vacation with his wife. Wang Wei was walking around Origin Seal City with a candy stick in his hand, enjoying himself. He enjoyed the overall feel of this city as the atmosphere perfectly blended a mortal city with a cultivation city. That's how he was about to buy this candy from a stall on the street. Moreover, he didn't know if it was because of his future wife's terrific standards. The food in this place was beyond excellent. Every restaurant he visited in the past few days had its own unique cuisine, techniques, and recipes. Wang Wei stopped as he suddenly sensed something. He looked in the distance, and his vision penetrated endless distance as he saw a bright mirror above the Academy's city. Have you figured it out? He shook his head. I'm starting to regret making friends with that little girl, Su Shi. Wang Wei did not mind despite his words since that's how most friendships in the cultivation world, especially relationships with people of different factions or lineages. The lineage's benefit must come above everything, including friendship. Not a bad move, old man, Wang Wei commented. However, this is not enough to stop me. He raised his hand to condense a few karmic threats, mainly Emperor Kong, Lin Fan, Su Shi, and the Lower Dimension Academy. Emperor Kong owed him much more karma than the latter admitted due to everything he did for the Academy in the lower dimension. So, what Wang Wei plans to do is to force him to repay that karma, or he will suffer a potent and immediate backlash that not only damages his soul but also affects his luck. And what's the best way to repay that karmic debt? Of course, it's from that compensation from Heavenly Dao. Wang Wei manipulated the threads to do his bidding, ensuring Emperor Kong would not notice anything until he received the compensation. By then, he'll have no opportunity to delay and must pay immediately. Heavenly Dao is planning for Transcendent factions, but there must be a difference between them, Wang Wei sneered. He had no personal grudge against Emperor Kong or the Academy but must ensure his faction's supremacy in the upcoming era. After all, in this world, more power means more resources, so Wang Wei, who always knew this, never stopped striving for more power and resources for the sect. Wang Wei bit his candy, enjoying the unique sweetness with the ability to improve his mood. If not for his cultivation level, this thing might affect his state of mind, which is truly impressive. The city was truly remarkable. Even the candy maker had some achievements in the Tao of cooking. I'm starting to wonder whether I bragged too much that day, Wang Wei thought. With such an impressive palate, could he create a dish that makes her swallow those words back? He sighed, feeling his future was bleak. Wang Wei headed toward the next restaurant. However, he did not take a few steps when something landed from the sky before him. He saw a beautiful woman in golden metallic armor from shoulder to toe, looking like a Valkyrie from Earth's myth. What can I do for you, young lady? Wang Wei asked, already having a prediction. I've been ordered to hand you this token and a message. You've wasted enough time. Wang Wei's lips twitched. He knew the suffering that awaited him, so he's been delaying for the past few days, trying to enjoy himself as much as possible. However, it seems this future wife cannot wait to beat him up. Wang Wei waved his hand and the token flew into his palm. The Valkyrie woman did not say anything else and flew away. Meanwhile, Wang Wei sighed before activating the token, disappearing from the middle of the street. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1319 Arranged Marriage. Wang Wei floated above the air, looking at this new environment. Is this the Origin Seal continent? This place is odd. As soon as he stepped into this world, he found his mind clear, and inspiration about different Daos flashed in his mind. He scanned this place with his divine sense. In terms of size, this continent was approximately 100 times larger than the lower dimension, which is considered small by the upper dimension standard. It's extremely beneficial to cultivate in this place, but the reason for that is not an abundance of Dao Qi, Wang Wei muttered. The concentration of Dao Qi in this place was extraordinary, but it was not the main reason why it was so special. Wang Wei teleported to a forest nearby and started to play with the grass. No way, he muttered as he examined the trees, rivers, mountains, and animals. He then scanned the continent a second time, observing everything on a more profound level. What a brilliant method, he praised. Everything on this continent was made of runes. From the grass to the trees, the clouds, the rain, the air, volcanoes, the ocean. Everything was made from different runes, making this place the holy place for professionals. Just by observing a single tree in the Origin Seal continent, these people can gain a deep understanding of wood runes, vitality runes, life runes, and many more. Even the animals are composed of runes. Wang Wei studied. She used essence rune to create the body, Qi rune, to give the body the life energy and other energies for the body to function, and finally that spirit rune, created things like the mind, spirit and soul. Such a method can be described as true creation, especially compared to the cheap grand mist wheel method. Wu Hong used her Dao to control other Daos, which in this case is creation Dao. With such a method, it's no wonder she could compete for status with the Skill Dao Association. Is this a microcosm of the eternal ascension world? No, maybe the chaos universe? Wang Wei immediately checked after having this idea. His eyes saw a gray river that ran through every fabric of this continent. This river was something he was familiar with, yet it was also different. A river of fate created with runes, Wang Wei thought. It is common knowledge that runes is the language of Grand Dao. But it was after today that he realized what these words truly meant. Wang Wei checked, and as expected he saw the river of time, a source chi space, heavenly Dao and even primordial chaos, which surrounded this continent and served as a barrier or protection, and they were all created with runes. Wait, where is Samsara? Wang Wei muttered. He searched and he found it. Did she steal power from the Yama kings? He could tell the Samsara of this continent was operating like any others. In other words, anyone who enters this continent will be under the jurisdiction of Wu Hong's Samsara instead of the ones controlled by Grand Dao and the Samsara Cardinal. I knew she was capable, but this is something else, Wang Wei sighed. More importantly, she's so ballsy. Damn it, why did I find myself a rose? Has it really been that long, or have I developed a new kink for capable women? I guess it isn't new. Wang Wei shook his head to remove these complicated thoughts from his mind. He focused on the Origin Seal continent. This was the perfect place for him to retreat. By studying this place's runes, he can significantly improve his fate domination Dao. As he was thinking about how best to utilize this new resource, the token he received from the Valkyrie vibrated, sending him a message of where to go next. Wang Wei sighed before flying up, breaking through the barrier around this continent and entering the artificially created primordial chaos. Through the token, he soon found a magnificent palace that shocked Wang Wei to his core. The white palace was so beautiful and grand that he only thought of one thing. How rich is this woman? He had recognized many of the materials used to build this thing, but many of them were things he did not recognize, probably from other chaos worlds. The palace itself is probably a paragon artifact, and the formation engraved on them gives me the goosebump, Wang Wei thought. He felt a deep sense of danger as he glanced at that palace. He also realized why these parasites never messed with this place. That artifact alone is probably enough to send all of them into limbo. The token served as an entrance pass, so Wang Wei soon found himself before a door. He rearranged his clothes, checked his hair, and straightened his posture before walking. Future wife, have you missed me? The room immediately entered a state of awkwardness. Wu Hong, who was somberly looking through the window, glanced at him for a few seconds before continuing her stargazing. Wang Wei's lips twitched. I didn't do anything, right? I even boldly but subtly showed her the state of my karmic line to prove my loyalty. He secretly sighed. Even dating back on Earth was not this hard. He walked next to her and also stargazed. The sight before him was indeed beautiful as it showed the birth of a universe with all its stars, planets, galaxies, and many cosmic wonders. Then the universe dies before restarting. The entire process takes place in just a few minutes. In other words, these two used the creation and destruction of a universe as something to stargaze, something to appreciate. After watching this scene for the third time, Wang Wei said, "Come on, use your words. We are all adults, so if you have an issue, let's discuss it." A common dating advice on the internet from Wang Wei's previous life was, communication is vital in any relationship. That is indeed sound advice, but how many people can effectively use it? Not to mention that this advice rarely mentions that knowing how to communicate is as important, if not more important, than communicating itself. Something has been on my mind, Wu Hong said calmly. Why did you accept the relationship so easily? It's apparent to anyone that you, of all people, would reject any form of fated love. Yet, from her memories, besides some insignificant reservations, you quickly accepted that marriage. Wu Hong looked at him. It can't be because of love at first sight. Rational people like us don't buy into such a thing. So why did you do it? Since you've accepted it once, why not accept it a second time? That's an interesting question and one I've thought about a lot before, Wang Wei replied. And the answer is much simpler than you think. Before the Supreme Outlaw trial, my relationship was pretty good. She was like a doting mother, and I was like a rebellious child who did not want to follow in their parents' footsteps or arrangement for the future. What a strange analogy, Wu Hong said with a frown. I know, but it's the best way to explain it, Wang Wei continued. Continue. After the trial, well, my mind was more open and I was even more rebellious. Then things went sour after learning about my status as a fate seed. Before those events, I saw our situation as an arranged marriage. My loving and doting mother, Fate, chose a wonderful woman for me, and after meeting her and seeing how beautiful, compassionate, capable and compatible we were, I accepted it. Of course, I'm still the rebellious son. Just because I accepted it once doesn't mean I'll accept it a second time. Then, our relationship worsened and there was no longer room for reconciliation. Wu Hong took a moment to process these words. Such a strange way to explain the situation, yet it still makes sense, she nodded. So, did you feel any instant connection after meeting her? Not all, Wang Wei shook his head. On the contrary, I feel our relationship is an ill-fated one. That girl will suffer immensely in her life if she gets with me. Oh. Wu Hong felt he was not saying these words without any basis. Tell me more. She motioned for him to sit down before serving tea. Wang Wei felt relaxed, and it was not only because the tea was refreshing but also because the tension in the room had dissipated. So, he told his future wife everything that happened during his meeting with Sun Junyao, including his conjectures about his transcendent ability to influence the chessboard. He also told her about his conversation with Emperor Kong, mainly his conjecture about transcendent factions, and that the academy was chosen for one of the spots. What do you think? About what specifically? Wu Hong asked. He had said many things and some she needed time to digest. Let's start with recruiting Sun Junyao, Wang Wei answered. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13:20 Chess Player and Chess Pieces, unedited chapter. I had similar thoughts before, Wu Hong admitted. However, she had trouble trusting people and because those two had their eyes on her, I never brought it up before. But as you said, I'm considered half her master, so it should not be an issue for her to join me, if she wants to. Although Sun Junyao had the potential to enter the next realm, Wu Hong would not force her or use emotional manipulation to trick her into her faction. She disdains doing such a thing. However, she will indeed extend an invitation. A promise of the perfect foundation method should increase your chances, Wang Wei nodded. However, do you think the path of perfection is truly the best for her? What's with the sudden change? The last time they talked, they agreed that the path of perfection was, well, perfect for Sun Junyao. I've been thinking about this since our conversation, Wang Wei said. People often believe that perfection is a taboo because it is the quickest and easiest way to transcend, and it's also a way to tap into Grand Dao's power. But what if things were not so simple? It's one thing to achieve a perfect body, or perfect Dao, but you should understand what it means to have a perfect mind. Cold, indifferent, calculating, and more importantly, no emotions, Wu Hong replied. Yes, in the path of perfection, human emotions are a liability, so people on this path will either eliminate it or suppress it to the lowest level possible, Wang Wei nodded. However, these people are also the most ruthless. They will do anything to achieve their goals and have no bottom line. Wang Wei considered himself a ruthless person, and his path of absolute freedom required him to have no moral restrictions. However, there are certain things he would never do, for example, forcing himself on someone else. He just needs to know he has the power to do it without any mortal guilt without doing it. These people don't care about friends, families, and loved ones. Everything can be abandoned for their pursuit of the Tao. It's fine if something like Grand Tao or Heavenly Tao, who is the consciousness that controls the rules of reality, but if cultivators had a similar mindset, they will turn heaven and earth upside down, maybe even destroy it to achieve their goals, Wu Hong finished and her eyes lit up. That's why it's a taboo. Grand Tao wants people to achieve transcendence, but he doesn't want them to do it in an extreme manner that may endanger the chaos universe. Exactly. Wu Hong sighed. I understand Grand Tao's point of view, but the path of transcendence is already difficult to traverse. On top of everything else, rules limit how we operate. That's why, in the end, cultivators will revolt against heaven and earth. Wang Wei did not say Grand Tao but implied it. The two of them became quiet for a few seconds. This short conversation revealed the trend of the entire chaos universe. Peak paragons will not accept there are certain things they cannot do to reach the pinnacle of the world, and this is even more so for half-step transcendence. Considering that their strength means the rules no longer limit them, it's foreseeable how much chaos the world will be plunged into as Grand Tao tries to suppress and restrict these people, and they try to fight back. Let's not talk about that for now, Wu Hong said. She sensed that their conversation might soon be sensed and be warned. However, without the path of perfection, Sun Junyo's future will not be as bright. Then, a look of realization dawned on her as she glanced at Wang Wei. Yin Yang, your Tao also included freedom so she can follow your example and walk the path of imperfect perfection. That's a path with more potential. No, better yet, the path, emotional perfection. Emotional perfection? In that case, she would need to change her Tao to 6 emotion 7 desires or focus on spiritual practice. That's not a problem, Wu Hong answered. Once she perfects her state of mind, she'll realize her copy Tao is not the best fit for her. He'll then suggest she switches her primary Tao. Wang Wei nodded. Switching primary Tao is a dangerous thing since the cultivator will need to reforge their Tao imprints, change their Tao body and, awakening, transform their soul, and lastly their cultivation realm might drop, unless they cultivate a sub-Tao to the same level of their primary Tao before switching. Well, we've laid a path for her, but it's up to her whether she chooses to walk on it, Wang Wei said. No matter how much they plan or how extraordinary their ideas are, it's up to Sun Junyao to decide. That's true. Let's not talk about her anymore. What do you think about Emperor Kong? Wang Wei asked. He's indeed a lucky individual, Wu Hong admitted, not hiding her jealousy like Wang Wei. Oh, you never found a wonder of heaven and earth? Wang Wei figured if someone were lucky enough to get such a thing, it would have been his future wife. Only 2 appeared during the previous era, and they were all before I ascended, Wu Hong explained. And I've never found anything during my travels. Well, I did find a few who have already been used, but as you know, those are no longer wonders. What happened to those 2? Wang Wei asked. Although he had read the historical records, he still asked since she might have known more than the sect had given him. A few people used the first one to give birth to Tao children while the other disappeared. No one knows who took it and even what it did. Do you think the Dusk Emperor took it? Wang Wei asked with bright eyes. You think that's how they became a boundless without following the eternal path? That's one of the most feasible explanations. You may be right that they used a wonder, but it was definitely not that one, Wu Hong explained. They didn't tell you? I thought you guys were friends. Do you tell your friends all your deepest secrets? Wu Hong rebutted. True, Wang Wei nodded. However, he suddenly felt that the Dusk Emperor did not use a wonder. After all, these things become useless after a certain amount of use, so there is no point in keeping it a secret. And if, by chance, there were still a few uses of that wonder, the Dusk Emperor should have used them for her family or close friend or sold them for a high price. Do you have any theory on who took that wonder? Wang Wei returned the topic to the Golden Era's wonders. Most people now believe the primogenitor devil is the one who took it, Wu Hong calmly explained. Is this how he acquired that artifact? No, that can't be right. He told me it was a secret trial he discovered in primordial chaos. That wonder was probably related to the soul, Wu Hong explained. From what Yen Hai told me, the devil primogenitor was besieged by more than a dozen primals and hundreds of peak paragons, but he survived and even won countless victories. Damn, is the difference between the 2 realms so vast? With just a broken treasure, the devil primogenitor remained undefeated in the face of all these unparalleled genesis. Wait, his soul? Oh, I understand. Yes, his soul should have collapsed after using that artifact more than 5 times, but he fought in over a dozen battles. That wonder must have broken the limits on his soul and probably allowed him to acquire some characteristic of half-step transcendent. Wang Wei sipped his tea. When I talked with the devil primogenitor, he revealed he was a pawn in Grand Tao's plan to lure Qiyuan into starting the Second Origin War and push the Chaos Universe into the Age of Transcendence. Although Qiyuan went rogue and created the ultimate taboo instead, the overall goal was achieved. Now, I'm even more confident that Emperor Kong has the destiny of a transcendent faction. I'm also convinced that wonders might be one of Grand Tao's greatest tools on the chessboard. Whenever one appears, there must be a grand plan at play. According to your theory, Heavenly Tao wanted the world to prosper, so it's understandable why it would release the Yin-Yang land to give birth to more talented cultivators, ensuring the prosperity of the Golden Era, Wu Hong nodded. Everything is connected and everyone is either a chess piece or a chess player, Wang Wei sighed. Such simple yet profound words, Wu Hong sighed. Paragons are at the top of the world, so they should be chess players, right? No, they are only more valuable chess pieces. Only by taking a small step into the realm of transcendence can one be considered a chess player, but even they are chess pieces for people of higher levels like the Cardinals or the final boss, Grand Dao. Let's not think about such a depressing thing, Wang Wei continued. Assuming my theory is correct, how many transcendent factions do you think this world can give birth to? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1321 Transcendent Faction Analysis, Unedited Chapter 7, and if you add those two, a total of 9, Wu Hong replied without hesitation. So much. You underestimate what it means to be half the universe's destiny center, Wu Hong calmly explained. Had we truly become the center, it would probably be enough to cultivate 33 factions, and I'm talking about factions, not individuals. A faction can have multiple half-step transcendents. For example, if Sun Junyao joins the Origin Seal continent, they'll have at least 2. Meanwhile, the Dao opening sect is full of talents capable of reaching that realm, and with all of Wang Wei's ideas they have a bright future ahead. 9 factions, Wang Wei uttered. Buddhism and Taoism already have a spot. Emperor Kong represents the literary way and the academy. Taoism, Buddhism, and the literary way are the 3 most prominent and widespread religions/philosophy/schools of thought in the chaos universe, usually known as the trifecta. Although my ancestor went rogue, he is the main contributor to the eternal ascension world's destiny and prosperity. Heavenly Dao must pay that karma, so a place will go to us. Wang Wei looked at Wu Hong. It must give you a spot, Wang Wei continued. You can reach that level without the help of destiny, and knowing you probably hold a grudge for what happened with the Curse Master, this might be the best way to appease you. That may be one of the considering factors, but not the greatest one, Wu Hong shook his head. They'll get a spot due to the destiny of Profession Dao. Without how the Origin Seal continent operates, it will be easier for us to train transcendent tier professions. Indeed, Wang Wei nodded. Once Wu Hong reaches the next realm and creates transcendent runes, the Origin Seal continent will reach a transcendent level among all professions. Don't get cocky, Wang Wei warned. Once Yen Liling achieves half-step transcendent, you'll lose your monopoly over transcendent runes. That girl is indeed talented, but I've never been afraid of any challenges, Wu Hong replied calmly. Not to mention how much ill achieved by the time she reaches our realm. True, Wang Wei sighed. He regretted not bringing Yen Liling and Li Jun with him to the upper dimension. He did not truly understand how terrifying a late start was in the upper dimension. Sadly, the lower dimension was blocked, so he could not even contact them and warn them to find a way to escape their sentences and ascend as soon as possible. Wang Wei shook his head to remove these thoughts from his mind. That's 5 spots, leaving 4. Well, there is probably a spot for a dynasty, Wu Hong continued. The Way of Fortune dynasty protects ordinary mortals, so Heavenly Dao might give them a spot. Yes, with all these transcendent beings existing in one world, it's a good idea to have one whose interest is invested in protecting the mortals, Wang Wei agreed. So, do you think the Great Qin will have a spot? He'll probably be granted an opportunity to fight for it but not granted it directly, she replied. Oh. The human emperor is a great emperor, but he's not the ideal one, Wu Hong explained. The ideal emperor is Yang Zhe, the saint emperor of the Great One Divine Dynasty. He practices the way of Holy Emperor, also called the Compassion Emperor. Saint Emperor, a ruler that is a saint to his people but a tyrant to his enemy, Wang Wei muttered. He had read about the Saint Emperor and the Great One Dynasty. They were part of the dynasty alliance supported by other overlords to balance the power and influence of the Great Qin Saint Court. Such a man is indeed the ideal candidate, Wang Wei nodded. As a holy emperor, it is in his best interest to ensure the safety and prosperity of mortals, which should reassure Heavenly Dao to give him a spot. No matter how weak and insignificant mortals are, they are the sources of talent for all factions. However, once these transcendent factions rise, the mortals might become endangered. The higher the cultivators, the more indifferent they are to mortals, and this situation should worsen once half-step transcendence begins to show up. Not to mention how devastating the slightest confrontation between these beings will be to even paragons, let alone mortals. As such, it's in Heavenly Dao's best interest to choose a faction dedicated to protecting them. Sadly, he's too weak, Wang Wei sighed. The Saint Emperor was only a peak paragon, not a primal. Although he had an overwhelmingly positive image, deep connections, and excellent influence, this did not change the fact that he was weak. There is still hope for him, Wu Hong said. As long as he can use his experience from the Taboo to become primal, use his charisma and influence to control the alliance, he might be able to compete for the spot with secret support from the other overlords. You don't sound like you have a high enough faith in him, Wang Wei said. Although I don't like him, I must admit that Ying Zheng is a capable man with deep plans and many secrets, Wu Hong replied honestly. After so many years of interacting and competing with that man, she only finds out his origin goes back to the prehistoric world through her connection with Wang Wei. That's how deep he hides. How much of a chance do you think the Saint Emperor has? Probably 30%. So low. Wang Wei frowned. Yang Zhe has an unparalleled talent for governance that no other rulers can match, Wu Hong explained. Most dynasties rely on their vast and extended territories to gather luck, but he primarily relied on the people's welfare and happiness. However, if you compare his ability to scheme and plan to Ying Zheng's, you will see that he truly does not measure. Wang Wei squinted. What if we focus on his advantage? After all, the ultimate decision is up to Heavenly Dao, and it may have different requirements. You want to work with him? Wu Hong asked before thinking of something. You want to cooperate with him to spread your mortal rune civilization? That's right, Wang Wei nodded. It's a great way to boost the prosperity of his citizens and show Heavenly Dao he was the best choice. I still don't think his chances of success will be high, Wu Hong replied. Ultimately, the cultivation is about strength and strong preying on the weak. Even if Heavenly Dao granted him that destiny, it's very likely for Ying Zheng to conquer or slaughter him to take it. I still think it's worth a try, Wang Wei said. If I succeed, I can stop the Qin Emperor, but even if I fail, I can delay his rise, and that's good enough for me. Well, it's a good move. You won't have to pay much if it fails, and you can still get some benefits, Wu Hong nodded. Then it's decided, Wang Wei said as he sipped his teeth. What about the other faction? What do you think? Especially the Grand Sect Alliance. As I said before, the skill association is useless, and it's the same with the exchange hall. As long as Emperor Kong keeps his heart of sage and continues training cultivators no matter the background, there is no need for a loose cultivators alliance to be so powerful. The innate demons are the third useless group. The next era will truly be the era when they lose their status and are no longer viable to compete with paragons and fiend gods. Wu Hong moistened her throat. After years of manipulation, the demon race's destiny has become to balance and suppress the innate demons, so they also have no value in the upcoming eras. However, Heavenly Dao might receive a spot just to provide some balance to the human race, but that probability is not high, considering we're the protagonists of the world and we've done so much. The Divine Faith Heaven's leader is a highly talented person, but their purpose is also geared towards mortals. However, dynasties are healthier for cultivating mortals than faith, so they are also eliminated. No, they might be given a chance to compete with Ying Zheng and the dynasties for that position. That only leaves the Sword Path League, the Myriad Clan Union, and the Grand Sect Alliance, Wang Wei commented. The sword cultivators have ruined their own destiny by suppressing the ultimate sword path to ensure the supremacy of the extreme sword path, Wu Hong commented. So, I'm not too sure about their fate. I guess it doesn't help that the most powerful one among them is not even from their league, Wang Wei chuckled. True, Wu Hong nodded before continuing. The Myriad Clan Union used to serve a grand purpose: steal the Qi luck associated with bloodline supremacy from the innate demon gods and transfer it to the human race. Now that the innate demon gods are about to be washed out from history, they might not be of much significance. Wu Hong looked him in the eyes. It also doesn't help them that one of their core leaders is one of your Wang clan. If they become a transcendent faction, then the potential of your clan will be too much. Heavenly Dao is all about balance. It will take that into account. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1322 Dugu Tianbai. Wang Wei frowned before shaking his head. You don't agree? Wu Hong asked. If it were before, I would have agreed that the Myriad Clan Union served no purpose, Wang Wei replied. However, the first ancestor, Wang Gua, stole my idea of a human fiend god bloodline. If he plays his card right, he can steal more destiny from the fiend god race, and that should be enough for him to get a spot. That is possible, Wu Hong nodded. That leaves the Grand Sect Alliance, Wang Wei continued. They are the most powerful, but somehow Heavenly Dao abandoned them and even used them as a stepping stone for the academy. What? It's because they overestimate themselves, Wu Hong sneered. Wang Wei even detected a flash of anger. there seems to be a story between you and them. Dugu Tianbai, also known as the Supreme Might Paragon, is considered the Grand Chancellor of the Alliance. He's the one who first suggested the idea and the one who convinced countless sects and factions to join. Wu Hong did not hide the disdain in her eyes. He's charismatic, heroic, and was one of the most powerful primal of that era. Despite how she felt about him personally, she did not hesitate to mention his good characteristics. However, he's also extremely ambitious. Oh, how ambitious are we talking about? Wang Wei was curious since it's rare for Wu Hong to have such a high evaluation of a person's strength. He raised his cup to his mouth. He wants to conquer the world. Wang Wei coughed as the tea went inside the wrong pipe. Wait, are you saying, that's right? He wants to conquer the eternal ascension world. All other overlords will either bow to him or be destroyed. That is quite the ambition, Wang Wei sighed. This kind of goal seems almost impossible to achieve. After all, the Golden Era was called as such for a reason. With all these geniuses existing and competing against each other, it's a dream for Dugu Tianbai to conquer this place. However, it's not entirely impossible. As long as he can become the first proper half-step transcendence, he can quickly suppress the other two and conquer the world. Of course, such a method of achieving his goal has a major flaw, and that's the genius of that era. As long as one of them escapes, they will become unstable if they return later after achieving the same realm. It's fine for him to be ambitious, but he went about it in such a stupid way, Wu Hong sneered. Instead of focusing on being the first person to reach the next level and use absolute force to achieve his goal, he focused on political power. So, he started gathering sects to increase the alliance's strength? Wang Wei asked. That's right. At first he did an excellent job. He even convinced those sects to live close to each other, making their disciples entangled with each other as if they were one giant family. He wanted to slowly assimilate them and eventually fuse them into one large sect? Exactly, Wu Hong nodded. His plan failed, but it did reduce many of the hostility and contradictions between these factions, turning them into a true and coherent alliance. However, he soon became mad. He divided the alliance into inner and outer members, with the latter rapidly expanding forces without any regard. He blackmailed, intimidated, and forced countless factions to become outer members, not even caring whether they were truly loyal or not. It sounds like he just wanted to use these people to expand the alliance's luck, Wang Wei commented. Did he want to use a large quantity of luck to try to enter the next realm? Dugu Tianbai is not stupid. He should have understood that such a loose amalgamation of luck was feeble and useless. And even if he wanted to walk the path of luck to become half-step transcendent, he would have needed the luck of the entire world. Hence his previous ambition to conquer the world, Wang Wei muttered. Yes, but I still don't understand why he did such a stupid thing, and I was not the only one. At first, many people thought he wanted to start a war, but anyone could see that these outer members would never support him fully, and many would betray him at the slightest sign of trouble. There are two ways to explain his behavior: either he became prideful and made a stupid error, or there is some hidden reason he needed such a quantity of luck, even if they were not properly condensed. Wu Hong nodded. Many people deduced the same conclusion, and the other overlords tried many methods to find the source of Dugu Tianbai's change. However, no one had an answer to this day. I can now understand why Heavenly Dao is not a fan of the alliance, Wang Wei continued. If this man succeeds in his ambition, I reckon he would not hesitate to absorb all the world sources of this world to assist him in reaching the next level, and by controlling the world's chi luck, he can reduce, even eliminate Heavenly Dao's divine punishment for his action. Using one of the 3,800 source chaos worlds is one of the most direct ways to achieve half-step transcendence. Whether through Heavenly Dao or siphoning all the world's energy, world source, to forcefully elevate cultivation to the next realm, they are the best methods. Although these methods probably have some side effects and even higher consequences, most people capable of using them would not care. Many paragons have known this, but unfortunately for them, the Heavenly Dao of these worlds was also transcendent. As long as they try these people, they will be wiped out by divine punishment. Unfortunately, the ultimate taboo opened a can of worms. Many methods to bypass or even reduce the effect of divine punishment were distributed to cultivators across the chaos universe, endangering the source chaos worlds and making them more valuable. It would indeed be a disaster for the world if someone like Dugu Tianbai transcended, Wu Hong sneered. You don't seem to like him very much, Wang Wei asked. Wu Hong was briefly quiet. Although I don't like to admit it, I was the weakest of the 13 in terms of foundation. That bastard thought that meant I was a soft persimmon and tried to force me to surrender to him. So, you guys fought? Wu Hong nodded. Did you lose? Why would I lose? She stared at him. I thought you suffered at his hands, hence your resentment. Wu Hong shook his head. We fought for a few years and I had the advantage. However, once that bastard realized he was about to lose and his prestige might be affected, he became shameless. He called the other primals, claiming this was a large dispute between two factions, so everyone was allowed to participate. She sneered. I'm guessing his objective was not to besiege you? Of course not. He knew the others would not allow him to kill him and intervened in the conflict to de-escalate the situation. That way he gets to walk away without technically suffering defeat. That's why I despise him. Wang Wei nodded, but his body suddenly paused as he thought something. Did he try to court you? Isn't it obvious? That bastard wanted my strength, lineage, and my body. Wu Hong genuinely looked disgusted as she thought of Dugu Tianbai. One of the things she despised the most was this kind of man who did not want a partnership with her. Instead, they wanted to conquer her like she was a delicious piece of meat. It did not help that all these men were weaker than her, and once they realized this, their egos became hurt, so they either abandoned such notion or tried every means to eliminate her. Wife, don't worry. I'll avenge your grievance once I have the strength and Dugu Tianbai returns from limbo. Who needs you to avenge them? I've been thinking for a long time of publicly slapping him in the face and ruining his reputation. Once I'm healed and achieve a perfect foundation, my strength should be enough, so there is no need for your help. Wife, can't you give me a chance to act arrogant and mainly before you? Wang Wei complained. This is the downside of having a powerful wife. There is no opportunity to show his masculine and manly side as a protector. Who's your wife? Wu Hong asked. A slip of the tongue, Wang Wei said casually before immediately changing the topic. If you remove the one for the dynasties, 3 spots remain. Based on your analysis, it should go to the Sword Path League, the Myriad Clan Union, and probably the Demon Race. However, there is also a high chance that these spots will be distributed to non-overlord factions. Do you have someone in mind? Wu Hong asked. The Barbarian Race, Wang Wei replied. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1323. A more complex situation. Wu Hong nodded. Their origin makes them unique. Many cultivators are dedicated to studying history and culture throughout the Chaos Universe, and they discovered something. Most cultures develop the same way. It's like there is a blueprint to ensure people's naming sense, language, philosophy, values, and many other factors develop the same culturally. There are a few outliers, but most are mutations of the outline. However, this fact has 2 true outliers, Buddhism and the barbarian race. Although these two have assimilated with the blueprint culture, it did not change the fact that the origin and essence of these 2 factions are entirely different. If I guess correctly, their origin should have something to do with the prehistoric world, Wu Hong continued. Heavenly Tao might give them a spot, just for the potential that the barbarian race might become the key to finally gaining access to that world. Now I feel conflicted, Wang Wei said. He knew one of his greatest advantages, especially to other Tao overlords, was access to his memories from Earth. It would make things more challenging for him if more people could get their hands on the information on Earth. Did you have some plan for the barbarian race? I noticed one of my followers, Monk, his destiny was slowly changing after meeting me, Wang Wei explained. By comparing himself to me, he's slowly transforming into a transcendent seed. Comparison and competition are some of the best ways to elicit growth and development, Wu Hong nodded. If he's as you said, then the barbarian race might have a spot. At the very least, they are one of the main competitors for one of the spots. Did you want to cultivate a new ally? That was the plan. Was? Wu Hong asked. Wang Wei said firmly. Anyway, I don't think it will be so simple for Grand Tao to regain control of the prehistoric world, and if everything else fails, there is still me. Yes, it's better to have one more friend than one more enemy. In conclusion, the Sword Path League, the Myriad Clan Union, the Demon Race, the Barbarian Race, and a few others will fight for 3 spots, Wang Wei analyzed. Sword Tao has taken over most of the destiny of all Weapon Tao, and this battle might be a chance to reverse the situation. Especially Saber Tao, who has been their greatest enemy, meaning the Sword Path League will have plenty of competitors. The Myriad Clan Union will have a future if they can contribute to the innate acquire war by weakening the Fiend God race by stealing their luck and destiny. The Demon Race is not entirely out of the competition. They'll increase their chances if they can eliminate the innate demon gods and take their destiny. The next era will probably be a time of great strife and competition, Wang Wei sighed. These two conversations might seem like a simple analysis, but they outline what will most likely occur in the upcoming era once the moons are eliminated and the issue of the two suns is dealt with. Things are even more complicated than you stated. Oh, did I overlook something? A few actually, Wu Hong said. First there is samsara. With all these transcendents walking the world, how can the world of the dead preserve itself? In my mind, one of the factions or one of the transcendents would take over, Wang Wei replied. For example, Ing Zheng. He needs the emperor title to become half-step transcendent, so I figured he would control the underworld. However, now that I said it out loud, I realized I was too naive. Although the other transcendents might not care about samsara for themselves, they wouldn't allow someone else to occupy it since it could influence their sects or people close to them. That's one part of the issue, but I don't think samsara will allow others to mess up the world of the dead. You think Heavenly Tao would grant one of the spots to the underworld? It doesn't have to, Wu Hong answered, and Wang Wei immediately understood. The samsara cardinal. That's right, Wu Hong nodded. Whoever they are very strict about controlling the underworld. Heavenly Tao doesn't have to do anything. The cardinal should give the Yama kings the power to balance the other factions in the world of the living. Wang Wei squinted. You seem rather confident in your analysis. Wang Wei agreed with her deduction, but he was not as confident as her. The samsara cardinal might interfere, but there is also a chance they might give up on the eternal ascension world. My confidence is because of you, Wu Hong said. I can deduce that whatever our future selves is doing, the cardinals are involved in one way or another. So, it would be stupid of them not to take an opportunity to place a chess piece into your homeworld. A terrifying killing intent flashed into Wang Wei's eyes. Especially since that chess piece might be my grandmother. Although he had only one conversation with his grandmother, he had a favorable view of her, especially since she admitted her relationship with his grandfather. Wang Wei understood the mindset of the powerful, so it wouldn't surprise him in the slightest if his grandmother ignored the previous relationship and cut the karma between them. That's right, Wu Hong nodded. You should prepare beforehand. No matter what, your grandmother cannot achieve transcendence with whatever method the cardinal provides. I know, Wang Wei exhaled to calm down. Now that he knew what was going to happen, he could plan ahead. If he plays his card right, he might peep into the secrets of the cardinals to prepare for their future battle. Maybe even deal a blow to them if he takes a risk. Wang Wei looked in the sky, his eyes deeper than they had ever been. They better know better than to mess with my family. Otherwise, once I deal with them, they'll suffer a fate worse than death. Such deep and scary eyes, how manly, Wu Hong thought, biting her lower lips while her eyes contained some hidden emotions. Luckily, she quickly controlled herself and returned to normal before anyone saw anything. Wang Wei focused on her. What else did I overlook? Foreign influence, Wu Hong explained as she sipped the tea. Do you think other chaos worlds will just watch as the eternal ascension world becomes so powerful? These people know how much destiny this world has, so how could they not try to take a piece of the pie? You mean foreign factions will also compete for these positions? Exactly, Wu Hong said. Besides a few who will try their best to destroy this world's prosperity, most will try to take this opportunity for themselves. I was in the mindset that Heavenly Tao was xenophobic and would only leave this chance to its native, Wang Wei commented. However, as long as these factions are willing to change their identity to become members of the eternal ascension world, they won't receive much resistance from Heavenly Tao. Moreover, these people are not even the greatest variable/threat. Yes, the foreign transcendent factions, Wu Hong squinted. These people are currently just watching and no one knows they are thinking or planning. But once they take action, we cannot deal with them given our current situation. Why do you think they haven't acted? Wang Wei asked. There are probably many reasons, but the one I can think of with the most certainty is that they fear a luck backlash, Wu Hong analyzed. They fear if they act prematurely, Heavenly Tao will also accelerate its plan and force this world into the Transcendent era in advance. As such, their plan should be to lay out things in advance and wait for the right time to take action. Wang Wei suddenly remembered Old Man Tianji and Emperor Blackheart. Both these people are chess pieces of the Stargazing Pavilion and the Desire Heart Palace, two transcendent factions. Wang Wei can imagine there are plenty of other chess pieces in the world waiting for the right time to act. The situation is more complicated than I originally thought, and it seems I must prepare in advance, Wang Wei grunted. Although the Tao opening sect is one of the guaranteed spots, that does not mean they would 100% become a transcendent lineage. On the contrary, these guaranteed spots are the juiciest and most succulent piece of meat to these foreign factions. There is also the fact that many people hold a grudge and will blame the Tao opening sect for what Qiyuan did, Wang Wei analyzed. Every cause has an effect. Qiyuan opened the era of transcendence through the ultimate taboo, but in the process he created probably the largest war in the chaos universe, resulting in the death and destruction of countless people and worlds. This level of karma is not something any lineage can bear along. The Tao opening sect has great fortune and destiny, and if it acts fast enough on it and becomes a transcendent faction, it can wash off that karma. If not, then they will be destroyed. Let's not talk about this anymore, Wang Wei said. They've talked enough for today. Any more and there might be consequences. How is your apprentice? She's fine, Wu Hong replied. She just passed the test to become an inner disciple. If she can pass a few more, he'll accept her as a direct disciple and, eventually, my legacy disciple. Really? You think so highly of her? A legacy disciple means that Hong Meiling would be the next ruler of the Origin Seal continent. She doesn't have that high of an aptitude for runes and such, but she has great managerial talents, Wu Hong explained. I've wanted to find someone to take over managing this place while I become a free elder/ancestor, and she might be the one. That's good to hear. As a founder of a top lineage, she must move from being the face of the faction to someone behind the scenes. Most overlords have experienced such a process, and the Origin Seal continent could be said to be behind. Of course, it's probably because Wu Hong has too high of standards for her successor. Well, enough wasting time, Wu Hong said. Let's start with your training. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1324. The frustrating woman. Wang Wei's lips twitched. He knew this day would come, and he also knew he could no longer delay it. He sighed deeply before saying, 1 minute. He condensed a talisman in the void to send to Red Mask. He had decided to stay here and even enter his cultivation retreat in the Origin Seal continent. As such, some of his work needed to be transferred to this place. All right, I'm ready. Wu Hong waved his hand, and they teleported to another area. Wang Wei looked around and everything was either black or dark purple. Primordial chaos? A replication, Wu Hong explained. We're in the battle training area I've built. This place was not the same as the primordial chaos around the Origin Seal continent but more similar to the battle pagoda from the lower dimension. To prevent you from complaining that I bully you, my cultivation will be the same, she uttered, and her aura changed. Wu Hong's cultivation dropped to 80% Grand Tao Source, her fleshy body to the adult fiend god realm and the third heaven, and her soul was that of a paragon. Wang Wei noticed that even her willpower was the same quantity as him. Of course, despite how level the playing field looked, Wang Wei did not believe for a second he was on par with her. After all, Wu Hong's comprehension of the Tao had reached the end, and she still had all her fighting experience. So, the battle would never be fair unless she sealed these memories. However, that was unnecessary since such an act would defeat the purpose of this training. Are you ready? She asked, and Wang Wei nodded. Then let's start. They rushed toward each other, showing their aggressive nature. Wang Wei had no hesitation as he punched her in the face. However, his attack failed as the terrifying force behind him was immediately sealed once it reached close to Wu Hong, who proceeded to slap him. Wang Wei evaded. However, this attack was fake, bypassing his intuition and ability to see the future. Luckily, his reaction was excellent, so when the hand was about to touch his face, he exploded his head as a form of attack. Wang Wei's cruelness surprised Wu Hong slightly, but she immediately regained her focus. She was about to use this opportunity to continue her attack when she detected something. A time attack. To be precise, an attack from the past. Her years of experience allowed her to understand what had happened. Wang Wei did not just blow his head. He used his time Tao to send some of his blood to a few seconds in the past before growing a body/clone from that drop of blood. The clone then attacked Wu Hong across spacetime. Wu Hong did not move to look at the source of the attack. A rune appeared above her head, sealing the surrounding spacetime continuum. However, her previous momentum was gone, and Wang Wei had enough time to regrow his head. Or so he thought. As soon as his head regenerated, he discovered a terrifying curse inside his body. When did he get cursed? It did not take him long to figure it out, the blood clone. He did not know when, but Wu Hong had used that clone from the past as a medium to curse him. He reacted by using his Yin-Yang Dao to change the curse into a benediction. Of course, his primary problem is not the curse but the subtle true will inside. If not for that power, his natural immunity would have eliminated that curse on its own. While Wang Wei was dealing with internal troubles, he still had external problems as well. Wu Hong suddenly appeared before him, and her body moved like a graceful swan as she used a somersault kick. Wang Wei crossed his arms to block, but as soon as he came into contact with her, he found his terrifying strength and resilience drastically weakening. Crack. The bones in his arms, which were powerful enough to serve as pillars to hold together an entire world bigger than the lower dimension, cracked under the force of that kick. Her true will application is even better than mine, Wang Wei thought. He tried his best to prevent Wu Hong's true will from entering his body and permanently injuring him. Wu Hong's attack was a two-hit kicking combo, so she followed it with a second kick. However, Wang Wei knew he could not block that second attack, so he opened his mouth to blow. Fated Destruction. Wind of Annihilation. With this attack, Wang Wei not only used his Fate Dao to utilize Destruction Dao, he also included a bit of Destruction Dao from his Sub-Dao. A terrifying black wind with the power to reduce everything to ash emanated from his mouth. Sadly, it was useless. The black wind extinguished itself once it reached Wu Hong's foot. Luckily, Wang Wei never planned for this attack to work. The black wind's primary purpose was to distract his opponent, and the other was to tear apart the surrounding void, allowing him to teleport away from that devastating kick. It also bought him more than enough time to regenerate his bones. What an annoying person to fight, Wang Wei complained as he teleported about 30 light-years away. She builds a perfect domain around her with her sealing Dao. Anything that comes close will be instantly sealed without her even having to act. As Wang Wei was analyzing how to deal with the situation, his face suddenly changed. His body was immobile. Damn it, I was played. The curse inside his body was a seal disguised as a curse. While he was distracted removing the curse, the seal had already taken root. The worst part is this seal target, essence, qi and spirit. Wang Wei's body was now useless. The energies inside his body had shut down, including his soul power, and even his mind had difficulty working. Wu Hong had a smirk on her face as she realized her plan had worked. She waved her hand to manifest a colossal hand composed of runes. Wang Wei knew he would immediately lose if that attack landed, but it seemed that there was nothing he could do. This is not fair, Wang Wei screamed in his mind. That hand contained a seal for all his Daos and all his techniques. If Wu Hong had not known him intimately, how could she have created such a seal? I know what you're thinking, but I did not create this seal based on previous knowledge about you, she explained. Instead, it's based on information I've gathered since this battle started. As for how I gather so much information in such a short period, well, I'll tell you after I beat you. Wang Wei was unwilling. The battle hadn't started for 5 minutes and he was about to lose. He couldn't accept that. Whether it was for his pride as a man or as a mighty warrior, he would not accept such a result. Defeat is fine. He expected to be defeated. However, he could not be beaten in such a disgraceful manner. Countless thoughts flashed in his mind, deducing a plan for the situation. Then, at the last moment before the palm hit him, Wang Wei's body released a terrifying aura, followed by bleeding in all orifices. He moved his hand and punched the big hand into oblivion. Fate Mimicry, Jilanfeng, a picture of a slovenly dressed young swordsman with a wine gourd appeared above Wang Wei before fusing with him. His aura then changed from a supreme being who plays with fate on a whim to an almighty that embodies the concept of absolute speed. Wang Wei's tattered and bloody body appeared before Wu Hong and punched. An exploding sound echoed in the void, followed by her right hand exploding. Wang Wei was so fast that even her potent and passive domain could not react in time to seal his strength. However, her eyes were calm. Interesting. He knew he could not defeat me with his existing techniques, so he created one, she calmly analyzed. He created a method to use his essence, qi and spirit flower, as a boost. Previously, Wang Wei only used the abilities of these flowers, but now he was using them themselves to boost his essence, qi and spirit. Of course, the consequence of this technique is these flowers will enter a state of withering afterward and will need resources before they can return to normal and use their abilities. Wang Wei raised his hand for a second punch, but he immediately discovered, to his horror, his speed was dramatically slower than before. She sealed my speed? What? Oh. Divination revealed the answer. She used the karma of him destroying her arms to seal his speed. With a thought, Wang Wei removed that karmic connection. Sadly, this was more than enough time for Wu Hong. She teleported away from him while building a domain around her with countless methods to seal his speed. Wang Wei's lips twitched as he noticed more than 100 million different methods of sealing his speed, and those were the ones he could recognize. Has anyone ever told you that fighting you is frustrating? Wang Wei complained. I've built a reputation for that, Wu Hong calmly replied. All those battle maniacs don't want to fight me despite my well-known strength due to how frustrating it is to fight me, she proudly explained. Come on, she continued. This is just the warm-up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1325 Neccessary Training, Undeaded Chapter. Wu Hong rushed to confront Wang Wei, but things were different this time. She did not use her sealing Dao, facing him in a pure fleshly body battle. Although Wang Wei did not know her exact intention, he also followed her. These two clashed, purely using their flesh. Each strike causes intense destructive waves to the surrounding primordial chaos. Wang Wei observed while fighting, and he realized Wu Hong's control over her body was higher than his. She had reached the true heavenly Dao control in his force control skill. No, it should be close to the true heavenly Dao control, he analyzed. The best way to describe her level is based on heavenly Daos, divided based on their world. Source Chaos World's true heavenly Dao is half-step transcendent, so their control of laws or Daos is on another level. However, it's different for normal Chaos Worlds. Wu Hong's level of control should be similar to the true heavenly Dao of a normal Chaos World. Moreover, she has reached a peak at that level. As long as she takes a step into the Transcendent realm, she'll get that level of control. Is it possible to achieve half-step Transcendent by attaining a higher level of control? For example, if a Paragon's control of the law reaches the level of a Source Chaos World's true heavenly Dao. After mulling it over, Wang Wei realized this path was feasible and fell under the category of achieving transcendence through skills. This idea is good, but how exactly could someone reach that level? Unless they could have direct access to a Source World's heavenly Dao and its operation of the law. So, a technique that can obverse the operation of the rules of heaven and earth? Such a technique is easy and challenging to create. If heavenly Dao does not care, then this path is feasible. But if heavenly Dao does not want anyone to peep at their core secrets, then this path is a dead end. An alternate method would be to observe countless true heavenly Daos from non-source chaos worlds. Depending on the world, any paragon can overwhelm the heavenly Dao of a non-source chaos worlds, meaning this approach is more feasible. However, the chances of success are lower, and it also takes a lot of time to deduce how the source world's true heavenly Dao operates from observing the non-source world's true heavenly Dao. You're distracted, Wu Hong suddenly said before she punched Wang Wei into oblivion. Damn it, why is your body so strong? Wang Wei complained as he regenerated. What body refining technique did you cultivate? Heaven and Earth Body. The Body Ancestors technique? That's right. When I was in the Divine Body realm, I found one of the prototypes he left in the world as a fortunate encounter and completed it with my Seal Dao, Wu Hong explained. Doesn't that thing require using worlds to cultivate? I found a destroyed Greater Thousand World and used it for my cultivation. What about after you ascended? Did you cultivate another technique? There was no need, Wu Hong explained. This place has countless destroyed worlds and dimensions for me to use. I only need to seal them into my body and use them to temper my flesh. Later, after becoming a paragon and traveling through primordial chaos, I found a chaos world that had just been born and absorbed it. How come you seem luckier than me? Wang Wei complained. You may be the son of fate, but am the darling of luck, Wu Hong proudly sneered. Wang Wei wanted to complain. Although he has abundant luck, he rarely has any extraordinary fortunate encounters, and that's because his luck manifests in the form of his background, the Dao opening sect. Most of the rare things he needed for cultivation can be acquired by asking his sect. That's why he appeared less lucky than Wu Hong. Meanwhile, she had to start from scratch to build a lineage like the Origin Seal continent. She needed these fortunate encounters. Enough with the chit-chat, Wu Hong said with a severe expression. Do you know how many flaws you have as a fighter? It can't be that bad, Wang Wei defended himself. Let me list a few, Wu Hong said. Let's start with the environment. I'm sure you've learned to use the environment in battles. Do you think such logic no longer applies to you with your current strength? Wang Wei listened carefully. Primordial chaos is a potent power with many utilization, Wu Hong continued. It has an excellent effect on the essence, So most top inextinguishable paragons will create techniques that allow them to passively temper their bodies while fighting. In other words, the longer the fight lasts and the more they fight, the stronger they become. Even the ones who have reached the peak of their realm and can no longer improve will use these techniques to give them small boosts in stats. And that's just one of the many applications. At that level, our body has infinite stamina, unless outside forces interfered. So, if you meet someone who can weaken your body and reduce your stamina, primordial chaos is the best source to replenish yourself. High concentration of primordial chaos can affect the use of the Grand Tao source, similar to how immense chi from the source chi space can do the same. Fiend gods are masters of this technique, so you need to learn to use it and how to deal with such a method. Wang Wei nodded while also smiling wryly. I understand what you mean, but you should also understand. I know your cultivation is low, and you haven't even entered primordial chaos before, Wu Hong said. But you should understand that your destiny means a lot of trouble awaits you. There is no telling when you'll be forced into an unprepared situation. You're right. Next, it's a certain mindset regarding battle, Wu Hong continued. It's best if I demonstrate. She rushed forward and started a hand-to-hand fight with Wang Wei. Midway through their confrontation, 4 arms suddenly grew from Wu Hong and punched Wang Wei's ribs. He reacted by creating a field around his body as defense, barely blocking the 4 terrifying punches. However, a weird scorpion tail grew from Wu Hong's back and pieced his defense. As Wang Wei was about to defend again, her hair suddenly grew long and captured him. We are inhumans, meaning battles are not limited by our human form, Wu Hong warned. Every part of our body is a weapon. I once defeated a paragon with spit. Once she least expected it, I turned my spit into the most corrosive substance between heaven and earth, and it melted her body and soul. Wang Wei was speechless. It was one thing to lose to someone but another to lose to their spit. This kind of humiliation, he wondered how that paragon felt once she revived. Don't think this is weird, Wu Hong continued. When you fight fiend gods, you'll realize what it means to fight weird and inhumane humanoid creatures. I was almost killed by a fiend god whose beard was cultivated by violent spatial energy. He took advantage of my ignorance to release a storm of extremely sharp spatial energy from his beard that almost sent me to limbo. You'll keep that in mind, Wang Wei nodded. How many Paragon's artifacts do you have? Wu Hong suddenly asked. None, Wang Wei replied, giving her a strange look. Well, that's the problem, she added. In the Paragon realm, your soul is powerful enough to control many weapons, meaning you cannot rely only on your proving Tao artifact. In fact, most Paragons will refine powerful one-time use Paragon artifacts as their trump card. One-time use. Yes. They sacrificed the longevity of the artifact for extreme power, Wu Hong nodded. In other words, wealth contributes to how powerful a Paragon is? Wang Wei sighed. Yes, that's why most Paragons are from a faction or build their own to help them amass wealth, Wu Hong nodded. You need to learn or create your own artifact controlling technique. Although your Tao is not enough, your soul meets the requirement. Can I see your collection? You can find them in the library, Wu Hong replied. Good. Any other flaws? We're just starting, Wu Hong sneered. I noticed you heavily favored using your fist over your legs when fighting. Such a mindset will limit your variety of attacks and make you predictable. Speaking of predictability, you overthink too much, Wu Hong continued. You like to analyze and plan 3 to 5 steps ahead of your opponent. Is there something wrong with that? In 99% of battles, such approach is the best. However, what happens when you meet an opponent who is better at predicting your move? Wang Wei wanted to say something arrogant that no one would be better than him in that area when he remembered the person before him was indeed better. In this short confrontation, Wu Hong was indeed always one step ahead of his predictions. Intuition, Wang Wei uttered. That's right. You need to learn to switch between analysis fighting mode and pure instinct fighting mode. I understand. Now for your greatest weakness, your soul. Are you serious? Wu Hong shook her head in disappointment. Haven't you realized I've been reading your mind throughout this entire fight? Wang Wei's face became ugly. You're so used to not worrying about your soul in battle that when you meet an expert like me, you become useless. But I've trained my soul, Wang Wei said, trying to save some face. Yes, but only against people weaker than you, Wu Hong explained. You've never faced someone on the same soul level as you, let alone someone more powerful. Tell me, how much did you improve after your defeat against Di Tian? The greatest improvement in strength in my life. Exactly. Without an opponent of a similar level for soul battles, how did you expect yourself to have any form of achievement? In Wu Hong's eyes, Wang Wei's soul accomplishments are good, but that's it. When it comes to an expert of her level, there are too many people who can see the flaw in his lack of soul battle experience. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1326 Continue Training. Wang Wei opened his eyes and wiped the blood from his nose. Is this what it feels like to experience social death? He wanted nothing more than to crawl into a wall and hide, which says a lot, given his thick skin. Unfortunately, there was nothing he could do about it. He failed the illusion again. All his life he had never feared any mental or illusion attacks, no matter how intricate they were. However, today he had the biggest wake-up call of his life. Wu Hong played with his mind like a toddler facing an adult. His so-called paragon soul or terrifying willpower means nothing to someone so adept at wielding the mind and knew to consider his willpower when manipulating him. Don't beat yourself, Wu Hong said. Now that you know your weakness, you can compensate for it. Plus, you've been improving at an alarming rate. She was worried that Wang Wei had already formed certain habits so that it would be difficult for him to adapt and learn new ways to fight with the soul. However, it seems she worried for nothing. His mind was as flexible as young people's, allowing him to change and evolve to improve. Let's continue, Wang Wei said. This training not only allowed him to train his soul battle technique, but it was also an excellent way of cultivating his soul subdao. Since you've made such rapid improvement, let's increase the difficulty, Wu Hong suggested. Think of a number between 10,000 to 1 million. Try to prevent me from getting into your thoughts while resisting the illusion. Good. The two started to fight physically while secretly battling mentally. Wang Wei applied everything he learned so far, pushing his spirit particles to the limit. Wu Hong showed him her soul, which was also unique as its main composition was 129,600 unique runes. Wang Wei learned from her and created a soul defense technique that combined his 269 trillion spirit particles into a group of 129,600, imitating her ability. As they were fighting, Wang Wei watched as Wu Hong slapped him with a seal of death in her palms and prepared to react. However, his spirit particles released a golden light, allowing him to break from the illusion. This attack was not a seal of death but a yin-yang seal. He countered it before continuing the fight. His concentration reached another level as he adapted to his situation. Then Wu Hong suddenly stopped. 22,345, she said, making Wang Wei sigh. And you still fail for the illusion. She waved her hand and the surroundings changed. The real Wu Hong was sitting cross-legged in the distance with a cup of tea in her hands while the one before Wang Wei slowly dissipated. Wang Wei sighed. Why do I need heaven and earth to humble me when I have you around? Don't be discouraged since you're not as bad as you think. I just have high standards. No need to take my pride into consideration. I needed this wake-up call. Wang Wei knew his future wife's standards were the pinnacle of the chaos universe, and even without her, he would also put these standards as his own. After all, how can he stand at the pinnacle of the world without being the best in everything? I'm curious though, Wang Wei continued. Your understanding of the soul isn't just based on experience. It's as if you've understood the essence of the mind. Did you spend a lot of time studying mind rune or something? Something like that, Wu Hong responded. One of my worst experiences after becoming a paragon was that the mind hunters hunted me. Mind hunters. Do you know the status of the mind in the chaos universe? It's a protected area, Wang Wei nodded. Fate is absolute, but the concept of choice and freedom still exists in the world, competing with it in many aspects. How is that possible? It's because of the mind. Grand Tao binds all sentient beings and cages them under the power of fate, but it also leaves a door open for people to escape, and that door is the mind. A perfect example of this is Wang Wei's Supreme Outlaw trial. If Heavenly Tao had been allowed to read his mind during the trial, the difficulty would have gone beyond nightmare level. Yes. As long as someone opens their sea of consciousness, other people must invade it to read their mind. Based on the difference between cultivation level and techniques, the process can be undetected, but it's impossible to just glance at someone and read their mind. There are many ways to work around this restriction, and there is only one way to bypass it directly. Mind techniques. They are rare and overly suppressed by Grand Tao. Of course, there are no absolutes, so a few gifted individuals were granted such a talent. The mind hunters are a group of people with such talent. However, these guys went on the extreme path. Their cultivation techniques turned them into an ugly invisible creature that feeds on the mind of powerhouses. A cold light flashed in Wu Hong's eyes. A nest of them targeted me and they hunted me down for more than 10 yuan epochs. In the process of eradicating them, I became an expert in the soul and mind. Mind hunters, huh? Such a group should either be turned into pawns or eradicated from existence, Wang Wei commented. Most worlds feel the same, so these guys do not dare publicly show their faces. As far as she knows, there are no chaos worlds openly ruled by the mind hunters, nor are there any places where they can exist peacefully without anyone trying to kill them. Alright, let's continue, Wang Wei said. Hold on, let's change things a little, Wu Hong said. They've been fighting for over 100,000 years inside this formation, so she wanted to focus on another aspect of the training. Anyway, this training arc will take a long time. She waved her hand and 20 more people appeared around her. Wang Wei looked at these people with curiosity. Their aura indicated they were all in the peak of the Empyrean realm, and Wang Wei had a feeling that each of them individually was a threat to him. One of the greatest threats to people like me and you is jealousy, Wu Hong said. People fear and envy our talent, and when you add interest into the occasion, it is a recipe for disaster. After you become a paragon and maybe travel through primordial chaos, your greatest concern will be being besieged. Today's training is about that. Wu Hong did not waste time. Under her orders, these people immediately started attacking Wang Wei. She did not interfere and only watched and commented. No, this way of fighting is not applicable to group battles. Spread your true will around your skin as protection, and don't care too much about the opponent's true will that has broken your defense and entered your body. You're a body refiner, meaning you can continue fighting no matter how injured you are. Leave those injuries for when you win the battle or after your escape. Wu Hong observed everything while she kept talking. Focus on one opponent. The others won't let you, but do everything you can to kill one person at a time, even if it means you have to exchange injuries. If you cannot kill them, make sure you severely injure them and thus limit their fighting prowess. Excellent work. Devour the enemy's flesh and blood to weaken them and help you heal. Be brutal. Bite and even chew on their bones. The sound of the bug is unnerving and has an excellent psychological effect. Such ferocity and brutality can have some deterrence effects and reduce their fighting abilities by a few %. Remember, you are fighting for your life, so everything goes to ensure your survival. Do you now see the benefits of having multiple Paragon artifacts? You wouldn't have suffered that terrible blow without a defensive weapon. No, the worst thing you can do is use clone techniques. Most powerhouses are arrogant, and their minds are conditioned to rely on themselves, so they will not use clone techniques. But if you do, you'll remind them. The enemies are 20 and you are alone. When everybody uses clone techniques, wouldn't you be overwhelmed? Didn't you just learn about soul and mind techniques? Play with their mind and emotions, make them crumble from within. You see that guy that just revived himself? None of that would have happened had you used the primordial restriction force. Oh, I forgot, you probably don't know what that is. It's the high-end version of no-life talisman. Using primordial chaos as a medium, your true will can access the primordial will and temporarily combine with it to form a special power. It allows you to bypass someone's longevity resources and send them directly to limbo. You should read about it in the library. I know what you're thinking, and the answer is no, you cannot use this method anywhere else but primordial chaos. Stop being distracted and focus. No, I did not read your mind, I can guess what you think. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1327 End of Training. Wang Wei opened his eyes and exhaled. His injuries had healed and he was back to his peak fighting state. Being surrounded was indeed a different type of battle and he learned a lot. Back in the lower dimension, he did not care if people surrounded him since he was so powerful that he could slaughter the entire dimension if everyone tried to kill him together. The only experience he had with this kind of battle was when he faced Old Man Nether and all his creation lifeforms, and he suffered due to the sheer amount of opponents. But that experience paled compared to this battle since he was now facing a team of elite cultivators. Wang Wei looked at Wu Hong. What's next? Well, do it again, she replied. But this time your opponent will work together and use formation. Wang Wei immediately became serious. The previous battle was already challenging, but if those people worked together and were perfectly in sync, the difficulty level would have more than tripled. All right. Wang Wei then experienced another challenging battle, and this time he truly felt like he was fighting multiple opponents, but simultaneously he was fighting only one. With these people perfectly working together, he could not use specific tactics like killing one person at all costs, and that's because every time he's about to succeed, these people will share vitality with that person and return them to their peak health. Luckily, Wang Wei had his methods without Wu Hong having to remind him. He used his spirit particle to act as an array virus to destroy the link between these people, thus eradicating their formation. Once they were no longer in sync, it became easier to deal with them. He also applied many of her teachings, such as using multiple artifacts. Although Wang Wei did not have them, he had access to Time Dao, so he summoned artifacts from an alternate timeline and started learning how to use multiple weapons in battle. By the end of the battle, Wang Wei's clothes were tattered, showing his muscular frame. He had blood all over his body, many bones were broken, and his left arm was useless. Any comments? Wang Wei asked as he sat in the void to heal. A few, but there is no need for me to say anything since you'll realize them by yourself, Wu Hong replied. However, you need to learn a healing source technique. Sometimes you will be besieged by groups, meaning you'll only have a short interval to heal and return to your peak state. Healing source technique? Wang Wei asked. It can accelerate the removal of Dao will/true will from your body. Technically speaking, you should have started learning these things after becoming an inextinguishable paragon. By then, your willpower would have been fused with your body, making this kind of technique easier to use and apply. I understand. I'll heal and we can continue. No, let's take a break, Wu Hong said. She had many training programs planned for him. For example, there were many types of fights in the group battle category alone. Wang Wei just faced the most basic formation, but in her life she has experienced a few different types of besieging with the group using weirs and inexplicable formations. Two of the strangest ones were the Mind Hunters, who almost turned her mad. Another group used a formation that forcibly corroded her body and slowly turned her into an octopus-like creature during the fight. Even after winning that battle, Wu Hong had difficulty reverting that transformation. Is something wrong? Wang Wei asked. I realize one of your greatest shortcomings is your lack of knowledge. So, spend time in my library to catch up and then, well, continue. Besides the obvious flaw of his soul, Wang Wei's weakness stems from the fact he's too young and advanced. He's only an Empyrean, but all his enemies are paragons that have lived for heaven knows how long. He must learn things he would have to learn after becoming a paragon to ensure he has a fighting chance against his opponents. He must also adapt to fighting in that realm in advance to prevent him from losing and dying. You may have a point, Wang Wei nodded. Here, Wu Hong gave him a token. This should give you unrestrained access to the library. She left afterward while Wang Wei focused on recuperating. After returning to his normal state, he condensed a new black robe. He did not immediately enter the library but returned to his room. Yes, he had his own room in this palace. After returning, Wang Wei looked around and smirked. Is this considering moving in together, or just a visit to each other's home? Well, I guess it doesn't matter. No matter the results, they represented progress in their relationship. Wang Wei waved his hand, and a talisman in the room flew into his palms. Red Mask came here and left the information he wanted, so Wang Wei checked to ensure there were no problems. He raised his finger to force out a single drop of blood that instantly condensed into a clone. You know what to do? I do, nodded the clone. Although training, Wang Wei did not forget what trouble awaited him in the outside world. He needed to start preparing to deal with the parasites, and the best method was to know as much as possible about them. Luckily for him, these people treated each other as competitors/enemies. The Blood Dragon had millions of people gathering news and analyzing these people. Wang Wei will use this information to scheme their death. The main body teleported away. He found himself inside a large white room with rows of bookshelves that go for miles long. Books? I thought she would use information jade slips. However, Wang Wei realized he might have spoken too soon. All these books were here for the aesthetic alone. No matter how they looked, these books contained one page with a rune. After using his divine sense, the book's content would enter the reader's mind. Wang Wei secretly shook his head. This massive library had 4 floors, each bigger than the others. The lowest floor contained information about the mortal realm, the second floor involved the Emperor realm, and so on. The things Wang Wei needs to learn are primarily on the 4th floor, Paragon realm, but he decided to stop on the 3rd floor first. After entering the 3rd floor, Wang Wei could not stop praising his future wife. The size of this floor alone was on par with the lower dimension, and what's more, the size did not exist simply for grandure's sake. Every inch was filled with books, showing how vast knowledge she had accumulated in her life. He scanned the place before heading to the area about Grand Mist Wheel. One of the criticisms he received from his future wife was his wheel application. According to her, even by Empyrean standard, his utilization of the thing has not met her requirements, let alone reaching the level of competing in the Paragon realm. So Wang Wei decided to start with the basics. As soon as Wang Wei took a book and started reading, he sensed his surroundings had changed. Time formation? How thoughtful. A bright smile flashed on his face before regaining his composure. Her actions reminded him that time was of the essence, so he needed to do things with a sense of urgency. Without hesitation, Wang Wei scattered all his 269 trillion spirit particles, each reading a book. Time passed, and Wang Wei spent 10 yuan epochs reading books from the 3rd to the 4th floor. He even had to read a few books on the 2nd floor. He had to leave the library but felt reluctant. He had only scratched the surface level regarding the number of books he read during this time. It was fascinating to improve every moment while also learning the secrets of heaven and earth. It's time to leave, Wang Wei thought. He had acquired all the knowledge he needed to meet Wu Hong's standards, and it was now time to return to the nitty-gritty part of the training. I wonder how long has passed outside? Wang Wei left the library and checked. 1 yuan epoch had passed outside. A ratio of 1 to 10? That's better than my formation, he commented. Luckily the world was still quiet. Nothing significant has happened on the outside, reassuring Wang Wei. However, he did not waste time and restarted his training with Wu Hong. Look at you with your scholarly aura, Wu Hong commented. After spending so much time reading, Wang Wei's aura changed, and he resembled a scholar with profound eyes and a sense of righteousness. You look quite handsome. You think so? After we get together we can role-play. I can be a scholar, a tyrant, a painter, or anything you want. Wang Wei did not waste this opportunity to flirt. In that case, I'll look forward to it, Wu Hong replied calmly. Let's get to business. The two started their training, and another 2 yuan epochs passed outside, which meant 20 yuan epochs of non-stop fighting and training. The world remained quiet, but everyone could feel a rising tension in the air. In the meantime, Wang Wei had completed his training. Was he able to beat Wu Hong? No, but he reached the point she could not beat him in the same realm with the same stats. Unfortunately, she would cheat every time he got cocky and secretly increase her cultivation to beat him up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1328 Goodbye and Retreat. Wang Wei and Wu Hong stood opposite each other, with only a few inches separating them. Why are you looking at me like a lost puppy who doesn't want to be separated from his owner? She asked. I'm going to miss you. Is that so wrong? Wang Wei asked. It's only a few yuan epochs. Can't you just say you'll miss me too? I'm going to miss you too. Happy? She asked. Of course, Wang Wei smiled as he looked at that beautiful woman before him. The love in his eyes has deepened immensely. During this training he made a ridiculous amount of improvement, but was it really due to his talent? He knew that was not it. Although it played a part, it was not the primary cause of his success. The woman before him is why he's currently so strong and considered perfect regarding battle IQ. Wu Hong did not hesitate to feed her all her knowledge and experience, like a mother bird feeding a baby bird through their beaks. Only because of her selfless teaching did he become so intense, allowing him to fight on par with her. Of course, Wang Wei was not cocky enough to think he had caught up with. In terms of experience, he was miles away from her. He knew that if they were in a battle of life and death, even in the same realm, he would not survive more than a day. She would mercilessly slaughter him, and everything he learned in this training would only prolong the inevitable. All right, there is no need to keep lingering, Wu Hong said, preparing to leave. Before you leave, I want to ask something. What exactly are we? Wang Wei wanted to know the answer. If you say they are friends, he would disagree given how close they'd become during this training. However, they were not lovers either. Although he's seen her body during their training when their clothes were destroyed, the most intimate gesture they've made was holding hands and a kiss on the cheek after he won a bet. Wu Hong did not immediately answer this question but instead started arranging his hair. There is no need to define our relationship. We have plenty of time to figure it out. Wang Wei glanced at her strangely. Back on Earth, he often used a VPN to browse through other countries' internet, social media, and so on, and he once read an article about something called a situationship. Unfortunately, that word might be the best way to describe their relationship. "All right, I'm leaving," she said before kissing him on the cheeks. "You can access this place as you wish. If you're in trouble, just come here and activate the formations. Even if all 7 of them work together, they can't break my array. So take care of yourself and don't die." After saying those words, she did not wait for his response and flew away. Wang Wei suddenly yelled, "If I did, I mean true death, will you do everything possible to revive me? Don't die and you won't have to find out." "Yeah, she'll definitely revive me," Wang Wei muttered with a smirk. Then he sighed, "I hope she's all right." Although he was 99% sure there were no problems with her entering the dark truth, the remaining 1% of uncertainty still nagged him. He knew there was no point in worrying, so he focused on his own affairs. Although the world was peaceful, everyone could feel this was the calm before the storm. Wang Wei did not know how much time he had, but he knew it was not much, so he needed to hurry. He needed to accomplish a few things before the significant change in the world occurred. Otherwise, he'll be grossly unprepared for the upcoming chaos. Wang Wei's first destination was the clone in charge of planning the downfall of the remaining moons. "How are things going?" Wang Wei asked the clone. "Good," the clone responded. "I've created character models for all the remaining moons, and based on their personality, history and mindset, I've devised a few plans to eliminate them. However, I'm not satisfied with the probability of success yet." "What numbers are you working with?" 10% chance for Time Eater, 40% chance of success for the others, and for the one I've specifically targeted, it's a 60% chance. "Those are low numbers," Wang Wei frowned. "Why are they so low? Do you need more time? More information?" "Time is not much of an issue," the clone explained. "Information is a problem for Time Eater. Unlike the others, the information about him is superficial, almost fabricated. In fact, he's the outlier why the others' success rate was so low." Even with that plan," the clone nodded. "That, and there is a high chance the Taoist son will no longer be hands-off. My calculations tell me he may want these people alive for a reason, and he won't let them die so easily." "Let me see your plan." Wang Wei received the clone's memories and took a moment to digest everything. There was nothing wrong with it, and Wang Wei himself couldn't do it any better. So, he took a moment to ponder how he could increase his success. "We need to change our mindset a little," he stated. "If we want to do things from the shadows, we don't have to be the vanguard, and the more chaotic the situation is, the better things will be for us." The clone frowned. "You want to force these ancient lineages that were forced to close their mountains to enter the game?" "That's right. They suffered tremendous humiliations at the hands of the 7 moons, and without those 2 around, they'll have no fear or restraint to enact their vengeance. If you want to make such a move, it's not enough to use their hatred to get them to act," the clone added. "We must also share some of the benefits with them." "That's fine." Wang Wei never planned to eat everything for himself. People hated the moon because they divided everything amongst themselves and left no crumbs for everybody else. If Wang Wei had taken all their resources, he would just be another version of the moons in a different font. So, his idea was always to get the biggest piece and leave enough for everybody else. "That's fine then," the clone nodded. "By the way, have you received any news from that little girl, Qin Zilan?" Wang Wei asked. The clone had discovered Qin Zilan's identity and connection to Sun Junyo's chef, so he fulfilled his promise to her that he would help find her master. "She's still with her master," the clone responded. "The latter said he owed us a great karmic debt. It's a shame to lose that little girl. She's a great talent with potential," Wang Wei sighed. Wang Wei planned to marry that little girl to Hui Mingwei so she could help him develop his cooking Tao. "Well, maybe it's not too late. I'll accept his debt," Wang Wei said, and his eyes changed as he saw a web of karmic thread. As expected, his connection to Sun Junyao deepened slightly after returning Qin Zilan to her master. He waved his hand and a few more cracks manifested on their love-fate line. "All right, I'm leaving," Wang Wei said as he stood up. "Start laying down the chess pieces for the plan." The clone nodded. Although there was plenty of time before they officially enacted things, it's best to start laying out things now. Before leaving, Wang Wei created a second clone and handed him his Grand Mist Wheel before tasking him to oversee the tribulations of his creation lives. He was no longer limited by the stringent rules of the lower dimension and knew more about the topic, so it was time to get started. However, Wang Wei was about to focus on his cultivation, so he tasked his clone with this task. Wang Wei finally left his room as he teleported to an empty white space with one cushion in the middle. This was the cultivation room his future wife prepared for him. As he sat on the cushion, Wang Wei felt a mysterious power rushing into his mind that calmed him down and made his spirit in harmony with heaven and earth. Good stuff, Wang Wei commented before focusing. With his retreat he could not do as he pleases. His intuition warned him that time was of the essence, so he had to choose. I cannot cultivate my body and comprehend the Tao, so I must choose one or the other, Wang Wei. In the current situation, comprehending the Tao is meaningless for him. After the 80% mark, the time needed to cultivate is even greater than before, even for a genius like himself. My priority should be entering the taboo realm so that I have the strength to fight against these parasites. And if I want to increase the chances of that happening, my true power Tao realm should improve. Now that he had made a choice, Wang Wei no longer wasted any time. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1329 Sixth Flesh Tribulation. Wang Wei had already reached the peak of the third heaven, so he only needed to focus on his body-will fusion. He had much knowledge of the subject, whether from the Desolate Emperor or Wu Hong, so he took time to ensure perfection in the beginning stage of body-will fusion. Once he met the standard, he did not hesitate to summon the Sixth Flesh Tribulation. This test could be said to be simple but also challenging. A spinning wheel manifested before Wang Wei, and it released an aura that made his heart palpitate. He did not hesitate and plunged his right hand into the wheel. A terrifying force broke his body arm apart. The frightening part is Wang Wei did not sense any power similar to true will, but he knew this will could erase his arm from existence without any ability to heal. In other words, if he fails this test, he'll permanently lose his limb. Unless he found some extremely rare and valuable Tier 12 herbs, he'll never be able to regrow it. Wang Wei controlled his emotions to proceed. The wheel's purpose is not to kill or remove his limbs. Its purpose is to test whether he met the standard of body-will fusion. So, after he put his hand through, his right arm was torn apart but regenerated immediately. This proved that he had acquired some characteristics of will immortality. Wang Wei removed his hand from the spinning wheel and checked it. He soon discovered a few spots in his skin, muscles, veins, bones, blood, and even cells that it did regenerate. The wheel trembled slightly before removing the power inside Wang Wei's body that hindered his regeneration. However, Wang Wei did not immediately regrow this flesh, but instead he spread his willpower to the areas he detected. Once that was done, he plunged his hand into the wheel again. He rechecked his hand and found 5 spots that did not regenerate. He fixed them before plunging his hand into the wheel for a third time. Once he finished, something different occurred. His right hand turned golden. Perfect fusion, and I only did it on 3 tries, Wang Wei praised himself. He knew he did the right thing by absorbing Jisong's physiques. His already terrifying body-refining talent reached another level after that. However, he still hoped to follow after his future wife and absorb someone with the primordial essence physique. After admiring his work, Wang Wei proceeded with his left hand. The first time is the most important. If it fails, it means he will lose all his limbs. Afterward, all cultivators will have a few tries to correct their errors and achieve a perfect fusion. The more talented a person is, the more tries they have. The irony is that most gifted individuals usually do not need many opportunities. Sadly, the wheel or its creator, Grand Tao, does not care. Someone like Wang Wei can have at least 100 tries to perfect his fusion as long as he meets the requirements after the first attempt. Meanwhile, ordinary geniuses will have 10 to 50 tries, and non-talented people will have less than 10 attempts. After perfecting his left hand, Wang Wei felt the barrier in his cultivation disappearing. Without much effort, he broke through the 4th heaven. He took the primordial essence blessing pill and swallowed it. A terrifying power burst into his body, rapidly increasing his physical bonus stats. Wang Wei was delighted. He should be able to absorb this pill in a little over 2 yuan epochs, which is not long. So, he decided to take this time to temper his willpower before proceeding with the fusion. He can summon the will of nothingness with his human fiend god bloodline to temper his willpower, making the effect extraordinary. However, it was still painful and dangerous since he could be assimilated at any time. Simultaneously, this approach is an excellent way for him to train for his upcoming achievement of the taboo realm. Time passed, and Wang Wei's strength reached the peak of 6 heavens. This meant he could fight Empyreans with the cultivation of 82% Grand Tao with his flesh alone. There were still some effects remaining inside Wang Wei's body. But he needed to enter the intermediate stage of body-will fusion and pass another tribulation before reaching the 7th heaven. So, he had to stop tempering his willpower and focus on the fusion. The process took time and meticulous care, and as always, it was excruciatingly painful. There is a reason that all body refiners are masochists. Grand Tao wanted to place restrictions on this path, especially since it does not take as long to cultivate. A pure body refiner that absorbs the heaven can become an Empyrean in less than a yuan epoch. Afterward, as long as an everlasting Empyrean is talented enough, has enough resources, can bear the pain, and has an excellent technique for tempering their willpower and fusion, they can quickly reach the next realm in slightly over 30,000 yuan epochs. Of course, it's referring to people like Wang Wei who can get their hands on things like the Primordial Essence Blessing Pill. Meanwhile, the average emperor will take 20,000 to 50,000 yuan epochs to become Empyreans, and geniuses will take a little over 10,000. If they have blessings of merit and luck like the people from Wang Wei's era, it will take even less time than that. As for the average time to become a paragon? Well, things are different. The average time for people to cultivate from the lowest level of the Empyrean realm, 70%, to the peak, 89%, is 250,000 yuan epochs to 500,000. Geniuses can do it in over 150,000 yuan epochs, and people with extreme talents or blessed with destiny, merit, and so on can do it in over 70,000 yuan epochs. After reaching the peak of the Empyrean realm, every cultivator must take a break. First, they must start cultivating their souls, which takes time. Then they must find ways to increase their luck and temper their mind. Living a long life and experiencing many things is the most common method of tempering the Tao heart to prepare for the time-washing tribulation. Finally, there is the problem of the paragon tribulation. Most people will be stuck in the Empyrean realm, unable to progress because they fear that tribulation. Of course, in this current political era, these numbers mean nothing. Most people will take longer to cultivate because they fear being placed on a list for assassination by the parasites. For the intermediate stage tribulation, Wang Wei had to perfect his 2 legs. Once they turned golden, the remaining energy from the pill allowed him to enter the 7th heaven, and the pill effect ended. He knew his rapid progress ended, but that was relative to using the pill. Wang Wei waved his hand, and a meal appeared before him. He took one whiff and felt the strength inside his body surge. "Yeah, no matter what, I'll marry you," he muttered. He did not immediately consume this food, so he activated his essence flower ability to increase his strength. Instead, he consumed a few pills and herbs with the ability to accelerate his bloodline's growth. He took a too-long approach of bloodline growth and food cultivation to ensure he could reach the 9 heavens as soon as possible. Wang Wei took a bite of his food. Is this what the hell-suppressing elephant tastes like? His eyes were bright. Wu Hong left cards for him to describe all the dishes she left for him, and this one was from a rare innate demon god born from the underworld. The meat is soft, not chewy, and it releases softine power immensely beneficial to the soul. Wang Wei continued his training. With access to unparalleled food, the heaven-defying ability of his essence flower, and the rapid excavation of his bloodline power, his fleshly body cultivation increases at what could be described as record-breaking speed. As such, he soon reached the 9th heavens and immediately started the advanced level body-will fusion. Wang Wei had to be careful about this test since it was fatally dangerous. The target of the wheel this time around was his torso, and failure meant he would die permanently. So Wang Wei took extra time to ensure the fusion was successful, and as a result he achieved the golden body after his 2nd attempt. Wang Wei did not stop and continued his momentum. He swallowed a rare top-tier Empyrean pill called the Complete Vessel Pill, which had the function of helping people in the 9 heavens reach the 10th heavens at a faster rate. With this pill and his flower's ability to break the bottlenecks in body refining cultivation, he entered the last steps in the adult fiend god realm. Wang Wei then focused on the perfect body-will fusion, whose target was his head. This part was also a death sentence during the tribulation, so Wang Wei took extra care before taking the test. He even took the fake wheel pill, which allowed him to preemptively test whether he met the requirement without the threat of dying. Although this pill is not 100% accurate, it's still an excellent way to measure whether someone is ready for the test. After Wang Wei perfected his head, his entire body turned golden. He now had a pseudo-will immortality. He checked his body and saw the gate of flesh. He knew as long as he opened it, he would become a paragon. However, Wang Wei resisted the urge. This was not something he could do on a whim. The gate opening process was dangerous and also required a terrifying tribulation. He would not open it until he was ready. So he focused on something else, his sea of consciousness. After his head reached perfection, his soul was nourished and increased by another 1%, becoming par with a paragon of 95%. More importantly, his sea of consciousness was reinforced and became more solid, capable of withstanding more potent attacks. Excellent, Wang Wei thought. Now, I don't have to worry about it being destroyed due to the nothingness wheel. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 13, 32nd Taboo Battle Realm, unedited chapter. Although Wang Wei's bloodline now included the power of nothingness, he still feared that something would go wrong in the process. That's why he opted to focus on improving his fleshly body cultivation before starting the procedure. Now that everything was ready, he had no more scruples. He waved his hand and the nothingness array from the Dragon Palace appeared in this empty white room. However, this new array was nothing compared to the previous one since Wu Hong updated it. Then the nothingness wheel inside Wang Wei's sea of consciousness started to rotate. It absorbed the power of nothingness from the array like it was a whale that was dehydrated. The wheel grew in size with each passing moment. Wang Wei observed the process, ensuring that he did not miss something or that something went wrong. Once he was sure everything was all right, he nodded. The first step is done, so let's move on to the second step. Wang Wei's bloodline activated, and his body started to absorb the power of nothingness. He once divided nothingness into 4 stages: intangibility, void, emptiness, and true nothingness. He was previously in the peak of the void stage and now he was striding toward the emptiness stage. Wang Wei sensed the changes to his body and calculated. According to this development, the peak of emptiness corresponds to the peak of the inextinguishable, and I can only achieve true nothingness in the half-step transcendent realm? Achieving true nothingness will likely allow me to take a step in the transcendent realm. If Wang Wei's theory is true, nothingness is taboo not only because of its danger but also because it's also one of the few Daos with a straight and direct path toward transcendence. The second stage will raise my affinity with this power to another level, Wang Wei analyzed. Once that's achieved, we can begin the third step. Time passed and Wang Wei continued to increase the characteristic of his flesh body. He waited until he felt full, and his intuition warned him that any more absorption would doom him before stopping. Then he initiated the third step, existence modification. Just like he told Monk, Wang Wei used the power of nothingness to modify his existence and increase his vessel, thus allowing him to break the limit between Empyreans and Paragons. Wang Wei observed every aspect of this change. He sighed. If only I could enter that state during the perfect foundation. He's been drooling about that state ever since. He could see the foundational blueprint of his existence and modify it as he saw fit. Right now, Wang Wei could tell this blueprint was being changed, but the process was more of a passive change. Wang Wei has to rely on his intuition and feeling to guide the power of nothingness into his existence. The process would be fast, efficient, and safer if he could have direct control over the blueprint. Wang Wei removed the distracting thoughts and focused on his Bodish change. The process took much longer than expected since he was dealing with such a volatile power. Wang Wei had to take his time to ensure he was now swallowed and erased from existence. Of course, since this was not his first time, he was more confident this time around. Wang Wei opened his eyes and exhaled. He stood up from the seat before clenching his fist and sensed the changes inside his body. I feel a heavy burden lifted over my shoulder. There is no better feeling than breaking over limits placed on you by heaven and earth. I've also taken one step closer to the Paragon realm, Wang Wei muttered. This experience has allowed him to understand a higher level of existence. The infinite permanence, which is required of everlasting Empyreans to understand to become boundless Paragons. Although Wang Wei did not understand enough to enter the next realm, he had a sufficient foundation that it would be easier for him to become a boundless. Let's try its power, Wang Wei thought with a smile. He suppressed his cultivation to 70% Grand Dao source before using his Dao imprint as a medium for his Grand Dao boost. He added everything: his soul, flesh, true will, artifact, force control skills, Dao body awakening, 11 fate palaces, Grand Mist wheel, and a few other source techniques. His aura rose dramatically when he achieved a 10-fold battle realm, meaning his strength was on par with peak Empyreans, 89%. However, his aura did not stop this time. It continued to increase until its power reached that threshold, 90%. The power of a paragon, Wang Wei muttered. Although this was not the first time he wielded such power, now it belonged to him. He did not rely on foreign objects. He achieved it alone, meaning no one could take it away from him. Luckily, I had already made up for my understanding and utilization of the Tao imprint. Wang Wei realized that if his utilization of the imprint did not reach a higher level, it would have been impossible for him to achieve the Taboo battle realm. After this experience, he once again reaffirmed his theory that the battle theory realm was a mode that Grand Tao installed in this world to allow geniuses to challenge higher realms after Tier 10. Otherwise, due to the vast difference between the three immortal realms, the hierarchy of power would have been stagnant and unchallenged for eternity. Let's test my limit, Wang Wei said. He started to stack Grand Tao boosts a second time, but the starting point was different this time. He did not seal his cultivation but used his peak indestructible Empyrean cultivation as primary and his 80% Grand Tao source Qi cultivation as one of the boosts. After he added his soul and the others, his strength reached another level. 94%, and in an emergency I can fight 95% for a limited period, Wang Wei analyzed with a frown. This kind of strength is enough for most of the parasites but not enough for Time Eater. Wang Wei exhaled to calm down. He had plenty of room for further improvement, and he still has the opportunity to become a paragon soon. So, there was no need to stress himself out. His gaze penetrated this cultivation room and glanced outside. 82,000 yuan epoch has passed in the formation, meaning over 8,000 yuan epochs outside. Most of the time was spent during the transformation since he had to be extra careful. I have a feeling that the major change will occur at the 10,000 yuan epoch mark, meaning I still have about 20,000 epochs of cultivation, Wang Wei calculated. Normally, this time was not nearly enough to make a difference with my current 80% comprehension. However, I have this. He raised his hand to summon a gray orb that fluctuate with the power of fate. This was the thing he took from old man Tianji. With all the Tao rhymes Wang Qi sent me, I should make decent progress. Wang Wei returned to the cushion and summoned a few things to aid his cultivation, including the Bodhi tree, the peach enlightenment tree that the Sword Emperor gave him, and he absorbed all the Tao rhymes. However, this was not the end. A small orb that seemed to contain the origin seal continent inside floated before him. This orb was, of course, given to him by his future wife, and it allowed him to study all the runes or essences of the origin seal continent. After all this preparation, Wang Wei finally absorbed the fate power and started his cultivation. Another 20,000 yuan epochs passed, and he finally opened his eyes. What a terrifying power, Wang Wei sighed. His cultivation reached 86% in such a short period, and he can say for sure that the fate power was responsible for 95% of it. If not for it, the other boosts will not come close to allowing him to make such progress in such a short period. The worst part is that fate's power was heavily diluted when he took it from old man Tianji. Half-step transcendence, he muttered, not hiding the longing in his voice. He sighed before regrouping his focus. As he looked at his cultivation, he smiled wryly. I was so close. As long as his cultivation reached 87%, he could take a pill to instantly reach 89% without repercussions, thus entering the peak of the Empyrean realm. It's also bad timing, Wang Wei sighed. Wang Wei could feel two major events were about to happen. He knew nothing about the latter but was looking forward to the second, and that's because he sensed, through his bloodline, his father and mother were ascending soon. The world is about to enter a time of chaos, so it's really the worst time for you guys to ascend. So what should I do with them? Allow them to help me with my cause of sending them to the sect to ensure their safety? He knew his parents would prefer the former, but their strength did not allow it. So, it would be best to send them to the sect. The issue is how to convince them. I'll just be blunt and tell them their current strength is a hindrance to me instead of helping. Although harsh, it's also a good way to motivate them to cultivate. Wang Wei nodded in satisfaction with this plan before his face suddenly turned ugly. He immediately teleported away from the seclusion room. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. I noticed it the moment he disappeared, but I also cannot find him. Whoever or whatever took action did not leave a trace, and only a few people can hide so completely from me. I understand. Wang Wei bowed. He always remained respectful when doing things in the underworld because he knew this was a place of strict rules, and his relationship with his grandmother might negatively affect her. So, now that he had gotten the answer he wanted, it was time to leave. I understand. Wang Wei bowed. He always remained respectful when doing things in the underworld because he knew this was a place of strict rules, and his relationship with his grandmother might negatively affect her. So, now that he had gotten the answer he wanted, it was time to leave. Thank you for your help. As Wang Wei was about to leave, the grand voice sighed, take care of yourself and don't worry about your grandfather. Wang Wei paused briefly before leaving. He appeared before a small Buddhist temple. His eyes were red as he thought, Supreme Unity, you better have nothing to do with this. Boom. The sky above this domain became cloudy, followed by red lightning bolts flashing occasionally. The people were confused because it was sunny and clear a second ago, so why the sudden weather change? Only a few powerful cultivators could detect this change in the sky was due to a powerful cultivator. Wang Wei glanced at the sky and with a thought, he dispersed the celestial phenomena. He did not immediately enter the temple but closed his eyes for a good minute. He only entered after his emotions were under control. He headed to a bronze Buddha statue, and under Wang Wei's manipulation, everyone left the area of the statue, nor did they dare to approach. Wang Wei condensed a lotus-shaped incense bowl before putting 3 lit stick incense inside. He clapped his hands and bowed, Mother Mithria, I really need your guidance now. Wang Wei did not receive any response, but he stood in the bowing position for a good 5 minutes before he sensed the aura in the room changed. I don't know what happened to your family. Wang Wei raised his head and looked at the speaking statue, his eyes terrifyingly calm. No, he did not make a move. The status seems to struggle to keep its connection and deliver the message. Whoever did it did not leave any trace. They might be more powerful than us. I understand, Wang Wei said. Thank you for your help. The statue returned to its ordinary state, and Wang Wei bowed before walking out. His mind was running on overdrive. He took one step and returned to the Origin Seal continent. Did you find something? Yen Hai asked as her projection appeared next to him. No, he replied succinctly. Yen Hai frowned, and after pondering briefly, she raised her hand to condense a black orb. Miscellaneous, don't you have an unknown relationship with that woman from the tribal sacred mountain? The relationship between Swayer and I is strictly platonic, a voice quickly explained. How did you know which woman I am talking about? I wasn't specific at all. Miscellaneous was immediately embarrassed, so he coughed to change the subject. Why are you asking about this? The kid's parents just disappeared. This might be the only way to find them. The kid? Oh, I see. Then there was nothing else. Well? Yen Hai asked. It's pointless even if he tries. How do you know without even trying? She purposely hurt her existence, and fell down to the Empyrean realm to escape execution. Do you think she or even the demon race would allow outsiders to see her? Maybe for others, but I'm sure she gave you a token. With it there is still a chance. Well, you can try it, but like I said, don't have too much hope. The black orb vibrated slightly before a token manifested. How much is this going to delay my return? Miscellaneous complained. Interfering with the world of living while in limbo has certain prices, but Miscellaneous still paid it since Yen Hai asked. Wang Wei took the token. What's this for? The demon race has a rare 3-star star sage. With this token you can ask her about your parents' whereabouts. However, as you heard, her situation is complicated. 3-star sage? Wang Wei had dealt with the race known as star sages before in the lower dimension. However, he also knew they were classified differently in the upper dimension. The best 5-star sages in the lower dimension are only 1 star here, and 3-star in this place meant the latter had access to information on par with paragons. I know what to do, Wang Wei said. Truth be told, he did not have much hope for this sage after what Mithria said. However, he decided to try it in case of a miracle. Wang Wei teleported to faraway places from this continent. The distance, this time, was so far that it took him more than 10 minutes to reach his destination despite bending space to his will. He soon found himself before this long but ordinary mountain range. He sent a notice of his presence to the void and waited. Soon afterward, a middle-aged man appeared before him. Wang Wei could tell at a glance that his real form was of Purple Thunder Ant. Who are you? And what are you doing here? I am a descendant of Miscellaneous Paragon and came here to see the senior star stage. I have a token. The steward was about to reject Wang Wei's request until he saw the token. He observed for a few seconds. Wait a while. The man disappeared and did not return until more than an hour later. Follow me, the steward said. Don't look at nothing, don't touch anything, and don't wander around. Once your business is finished, leave as soon as possible. Wang Wei did not mind this man's attitude. Although the relationship between humans and demons is not as bad as the lower dimension, they are also not friendly to each other in the upper dimension. Additionally, this is a sensitive time, and the demon race does not welcome his presence. Wang Wei followed him through a portal, and he found himself in another world. He looked around, and the only way he could describe this place was that it was a mountainous world. There were mountains everywhere, countless of which reached above the clouds. He sensed many presences in these mountains, especially at the peak. This causal line? Wang Wei sensed something. Ocean? He chose the demon race over the innate demon gods? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Their end will also mean the final confrontation between the Emperor and Primordial Path. The Fiend Gods are losing this fight, but will they allow themselves to lose like that without fighting back? I doubt that. Wang Wei furrowed his brow. He suddenly realized that many events that can affect the entire Chaos universe are slowly brewing, and as expected, the storm will start from the Eternal Ascension world. I had a feeling that my path of transcendence would lead to the Third Origin War. Are those events the prelude to this? But if such grand events are only the prelude, what the hell will the actual war be like? Wang Wei did not know he would achieve transcendence, but his intuition and the information he had gathered about his future self told him that it would not be a peaceful method. Forget it. There is no point in thinking so much. I'm just a little Empyrean. Hey, said the steward. Why are you distracted? What did I say about not looking? Wang Wei glanced at him, and the man felt the fear of God rush down his spine. He almost instinctively changed to his true form. What are you doing? This is the demon race. Watch yourself. Lead the way, Wang Wei said calmly. The steward felt ashamed for his previous reaction but did not dare show it again. So he quietly led Wang Wei to an isolated mountain with a small cottage. The mountain was simple, especially compared to how lavish and grandiose the others are. Additionally, he only sensed the presence of one person. The sage is waiting inside. Wang Wei did not say anything and walked inside the cottage. He saw a woman sitting cross-legged, waiting for him. She wore a simple black robe. She was devastatingly beautiful, but for some reason no one would immediately notice her beauty, and that's because of her strange presence. Her face was youthful and did not look over 25 years old, but her hair was all white and gray like an old woman's. Her aura was ancient, and her all-white eyes were so profound that even someone with Wang Wei's willpower and soul was lost in them for a few seconds. This woman is not simple, Wang Wei thought. Of course he had known this before. Anyone who can injure their existence to escape persecution from the two sons is ruthless, so how could they be simple? Furthermore, she was obviously a paragon and probably one of the best ones, but she did not participate in the ultimate taboo. That's another suspicious point. Senior, Wang Wei bowed. The Star Sage, also called Fan Sui and with the title of All-Knowing Sage, a title she did not like, looked at Wang Wei. Heavenly Dao made a wise move to choose instead of Kong. This woman knows a lot, Wang Wei thought. He soon realized it would be odd for her not to know much. Thank you. Sit down, Fan Sui said. Did he give you a token? Let me see it. Wang Wei handed her the token and she caressed it with her thumbs. She looked like she was reminiscing and had some other hidden emotions. What do you want to know? My parents, they disappeared. I want to know what happened to them. Fan Sui nodded. Her eyes glowed for a few seconds before she frowned. She raised her hand to summon a book and flipped through it page by page. Her information does not come from divination or any form of calculating the secrets of heaven and earth. Instead, she can directly access the archive/records of Heavenly Dao, Wang Wei analyzed. If Wang Wei's way of gathering information falls into the category of Fate Dao, Fan Sui method is under Heaven Dao. Your father and mother should have ascended, but an anomaly occurred, Fan Sui said. Everything about them has disappeared, their fate, destiny, and even causal link. I'm sorry, but I don't know what happened to them. I see, Wang Wei sighed. You're not surprised? It seemed you expected this. You could say that. Fan Sui nodded. I want to talk with you, but I can tell you're not in the best mood, so let's wait another time. She raised her hand to condense a second token before handing both to him. Return the original one to him, which is for you. You can come to see me if you have any problems in the future. Wang Wei was surprised. Based on how Miscellaneous reacted and a few things he read, he knew how valuable this token was. One of the ways the demon race makes an absurd amount of money is by selling these tokens. Many top powerhouses will sell most of their wealth to find certain secrets, especially those involving their or their lineage's future. Thank you, Senior. Wang Wei bowed politely and left soon afterward. The steward quietly guided him to the exit while Fan Sui calmly looked at him leave. All the pieces of this grand chessboard have been set, and now, it's time for the players to officially start making their moves. How can the demon race survive the upcoming era? Fan Sui muttered. Her eyes penetrated the distance, and saw a handsome coiled dragon with its eyes closed, deep in meditation. Ao Shin, the future of the demon race might lie on you. Don't disappoint me. Wang Wei returned to the Origin Seal continent, and Yen Hai's projection appeared. So? Wang Wei only shook his head. If even she cannot help you, that can only mean. Let's not talk about this, Wang Wei said. It was pointless to say anything else. Yen Hai patted his shoulder. I'm sorry, kid. If you need someone to talk with, I'm here. Thank you, ancestor, but I just want to be alone now. Wang Wei entered his room and sat on a cushion. He was deep in thought. Unbeknownst to him, someone was watching him from somewhere or someplace. Things have gotten a little out of control, so you need more pressure, said the voyeur. These people are not enough to prepare you for what's coming. Are you being a little too harsh? At least tell him, said another voice. It would defeat the purpose of pressuring him if I told him the truth. As long as he doesn't know it's me for sure, he'll be motivated to improve himself as swiftly as possible, the first voice responded. As for being harsh, you and I both know that we can reach such a level only by being ruthless to ourselves. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Before the visions in the sky even ended, another one occurred. 5 bright moons manifested above heaven and earth, followed by 5 terrifying aura. 5 people stood in the heavens looking above all sentient beings. One was a handsome young man with a black robe and green hair. He had a weird aura around him that constantly changed from young to old. Time Eater, Wang Wei thought. Time Eater looked coldly in Jimin's direction but did not immediately attack. Instead, he looked at the sky and said, "Activate." A white cover that resembled an eggshell appeared above the sky, covering the entire world. Most cultivators were confused about this, but a few could tell this was a terrifying formation. The Hong protective system, Wang Wei said with squinted eyes. He knew this thing because his future wife built it. However, according to her, these people should not have full access to its control, but now. So, you're finally making your move, Wang Wei thought, feeling uneasy. Sadly, his intuition was correct. A pair of indifferent eyes manifested between heaven and earth. The aura was so powerful that even someone like him instinctively felt fear and respect. Supreme unity, he thought with gritty teeth. The pair of eyes coldly looked at the world. It seemed to have seen through all its secrets and hidden truths with a glance. Then it said one word, lock. Massive and incomprehensive chains manifested above the heavens to surround the globe. Amit Ba, said another voice, followed by a humongous golden palm heading for the chains. However, the pair of eyes remained indifferent. The 5 moons suddenly acted as they summoned their territory's luck-condensing artifact and condensed the luck of the eternal ascension world. A mighty purple-white dragon manifested between heaven and earth before rushing into the sky. The dragon flew toward that golden palm and opened its mouth to fire the characters for exile. The golden palm resisted but only briefly before dissipating. Then, the chains completed their missions of imprisoning the world. So that's how it is, Wang Wei thought with gritted teeth. He needed to wait until Heavenly Tao was at its weakness or occupied for him to take action, and the best opportunity was for the celebration of a new paragon. With the birth of the new paragon, according to Heavenly Tao's codings, it would celebrate and also reward the paragons with blessings since the latter represented hope for the world. But this is also the best time for Supreme Unity to take action. More importantly, these people have entirely sided with Supreme Unity. The situation has genuinely changed beyond his expectations, but he remained calm. Wang Wei watched these moons enter the lawless zone, to be precise, for entered and one stood at the entrance. They know that I've taken all the talents from the lawless zone, Wang Wei's eyes squinted. These people do not want a boundless paragon existing next to them, so they plan to besiege him. Now that most of the powerful talents from the lawless zone are gone, Paragon Jimin must rely on himself to survive this ordeal. I can't let them succeed, but for now, I'm more worried about the effect of that Heaven's Lock. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1334 Devastating Move. Wang Wei pondered briefly. He first tried divination even though he knew it might not work. However, he immediately felt something wrong with his utilization of the Tao. It felt slightly clunky and out of sync. Most people might not notice this difference given how minor it is, but for people like him with great control over his Tao, this chance was no different than a burning star in the middle of a dark room. What's going on? Wang Wei thought. His divination failed, but he was more concerned about the problem with his Tao. He closed his eyes to sense it as he used more techniques, and the result was the same. No matter what techniques he used, there was this slight delay. Suppressing the use of techniques? What's the point of doing this, especially at such a minor level? No, there must be something else that I don't know. Wang Wei decided to take some risks. He first built the best soul/mental defense he was capable of before slowly extending his senses to the heaven lock above. Due to his cautious approach, it took him a while until he sensed something. He heard whispers. What is the Tao? Some people say the Tao that can be described is not the real Tao, while others believe the Tao is the manifestation of all things in the universe, a manifestation of nature. Nature follows the way of yin and yang. Yin cannot exist. Wang Wei felt these words contained the ultimate truth of the universe and immediately comprehended them. Then his Tao was slowly changing, especially his yin-yang Tao. This Tao was previously attached to his fate domination Tao, so the essence of his yin-yang Tao was all about controlling fate and pursuing freedom, but after hearing that sermon, his yin-yang Tao started to emit more Taoist rhymes and ideologies. Wang Wei found himself respecting heaven and earth and following the laws of nature. Many of Wang Wei's rebellious ideas were slowly abandoned as he realized the ultimate truth of heaven and earth. His consciousness was rapidly changing and he did not even notice it. His terrifying willpower and borderline obsession with pursuing freedom meant nothing before this ultimate truth. At this rate, it would only be a matter of time before he became a Taoist priest who believed in the supremacy of heaven and earth. Wake up, yelled a voice. Wang Wei's eyes opened and he spewed a mouthful of blood, followed by his complexion turning whiter than snow. He did not hesitate to swallow a soul-healing pill before forcibly breaking his yin-yang Tao. Wang Wei's aura fluctuated violently, followed by blood oozing from all his orifices. Additionally, his cultivation was reduced to 70%, signifying this injury was, at best, a Tao injury and, at worst, reached the level of his existence. Damn it, I was careless, Wang Wei thought as he swallowed a few more pills to stabilize his condition. In the lower dimension, he realized his personality was being changed to better fit his role as a fate seed, so he sealed a clone into his sea of consciousness to monitor him. He even removed his memories to ensure he did not know of its existence. It was that clone that saved him. Otherwise, he would have been assimilated and become Supreme Unity's dog. Wang Wei shuddered as he thought how he was about to live a life worse than death. He gritted his teeth in anger before calming down. He was not in good shape, so he focused on recuperating. A few minutes passed before his aura returned to a semi-peaceful state. Wang Wei then looked at the chains in the sky. He understood what they did. They prevented anyone from understanding their Tao. People can access and control their grand Tao source, but the chains served as a blockage and a filter. That's why Wang Wei sensed the irregularity when he used his techniques. If that were the only problem, those chains would not be a big deal. The problem is that people can no longer cultivate and raise their ranks. Anyone who tries will only listen to Supreme Unity's understanding of his Tao and be assimilated. If even someone like me could not resist this temptation, what would happen to the rest of the world? Wang Wei's face became ugly, and he swiftly checked the people of the Origin Seal continent. He frowned as he discovered that only a few lost people could not wake up. Most of the others woke up and were injured. He understood. This was a trap, Wang Wei analyzed. He was waiting for me. He sneered. Should he say he was flattered that such a powerhouse paid attention to him? Wang Wei exhaled to control his emotions before contacting Wang Qi and asking if everyone was all right. He also sent orders to his clone in the fate-changing hall to check on the people. After dealing with these things, he started thinking about the situation. What is the point of preventing people from cultivating? There must be a more significant reason behind this move. Wang Wei suddenly thought of something. He scanned the surrounding worlds and teleported 2 people before them, all devil cultivators with immense karma, both in the Empyrean realm. Before these people could react, Wang Wei controlled them and forced them to cultivate. However, they did not comprehend their grand Tao source. They were training their souls and bodies. Arc. Boom. Wang Wei watched in horror as a bolt of black lightning descended from the sky, ignoring all the protection on this continent or his room, and annihilated the devil cultivator training his body. Meanwhile, the other one had her soul collapse, but with all of Wang Wei's knowledge and experience, he had no idea how or what happened. A ruthless light flashed in Wang Wei's eyes. He took a few more devil cultivators and had them train using different systems. Some were forced to cultivate only their bloodline, while others used orthodox systems like only training Tao heart or willpower. However, the result was the same: death. This world is now officially a cage. No one can improve, no matter the approach, he muttered. However, he was extremely calm. The worse the situation was, the calmer he became. What the hell is going on? Yin Hai said as she barged into the room. Her face was also pale, and she seemed to have suffered some minor injuries, indicated by the blood on the corner of her mouth and on her shoulder. What happened to you? I saw the changes outside and wanted to send a projection to talk to you while I continue my retreat, but why did lightning suddenly attack me? Wang Wei sighed before explaining the situation. Are you telling me all the cultivators in the world are now screwed? Yin Hai asked with gritted teeth. Damn it. If I had known this would happen, I should have killed that bastard. Wang Wei swiftly waved his hand to cast a spell that closed her mouth. He had learned from his mistake and would not readily say these entities' names. Yin Hai used her tongue to release a sword chi and break the spell. Why are you scared? Ancestor, don't make the situation worse, Wang Wei said with a wry smile. He sensed she was about to say something and stopped her again. I feel like I missed something and your words were the key to it. What is it? He reviewed everything she said since entering the room a few seconds ago. All cultivators? Damn it, the mortals. His facial expression turned grave. What about them? Yin Hai asked. Wang Wei did not answer but instead summoned 3 devil cultivators and handed them a heaven will, a Tao seed, and immortal chi. As expected, they all died as they tried to enter Tier 10 and become immortal. Yin Hai looked at this with a severe look. She was not stupid. After seeing what just happened and with Wang Wei's words, she understood the severity of the situation. Without the ability to improve, all cultivators below Tier 10 will die of old age due to their restricted lifespan. In slightly over 1 yuan epoch, 99% of all cultivators in the world will die of old age. Everyone else will die except for the few who can get their hands on immortal pills or the Tao children. Why would he want to kill all the cultivators? Weakening heavenly Tao so he can fully take control, Wang Wei said calmly. The death of all the cultivators will significantly blow heavenly Tao, which is the perfect opportunity for supreme unity to annex the latter's power. So what's the plan? Yin Hai asked, but Wang Wei did not answer. He was still analyzing the situation, thinking of his next move. Could it be that we have to let everyone die and wait until we deal with him to restart civilization with the surviving non-cultivator mortals? Yin Hai frowned. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1335 Quick Response. From a purely logical standpoint, this event has a positive side, Yin Hai continued. As long as we can deal with him and rebuild civilization, our sect will receive great luck and destiny. However, even I feel uncomfortable thinking about how many people will die. This world is vast, meaning there are simply too many cultivators. Even if the number of cultivators was less than 1% of the world's population, the number of people is still astronomical. Yin Hai is a veteran. She has participated in and survived 2 origin wars, so she's seen countless people die. Better yet, she has watched numerous worlds crumble. However, it's different when it's the people from her homeland. It's even more heartbreaking knowing that one of their own is responsible for such devastation. Wang Wei looked at her and finally responded, You assume there will be mortals left. An intense killing intent flashed in her eyes. That's right. That bastard is in charge of heaven and earth, so it will be easy for him to eradicate all the mortals in the world, especially since it's another method of weakening heavenly Tao. He won't use such a crude and direct method, Wang Wei said. Oh. He only needs to allow these cultivators to increase their lifespan or be capable of cultivating by absorbing the flesh and soul of regular mortals. Then they will turn on these people. Such an act of its people committing mass genocide can be considered going against the natural laws of heaven and earth, which also means, it's a better way to weaken heavenly Tao. The killing intent in Yin Hai's eyes was almost tangible. This is why I despise you people with deep scheming minds. Wang Wei looked at her strangely. You and Brother Qiyuan are on my side, so you're different. Wang Wei rolled his eyes. He was not in the mood to debate her weird thinking logic. All right, it's time for me to make my move. I know you wouldn't let him have his way so easily, Yin Hai smirked. Do you need my help? Wang Wei hesitated. What is it? She pressed. I really didn't want to drag the sect into this mess. Yin Hai looked at him up and down before smiling in satisfaction. Do you think the sect can stay out of this if you don't interact with it? She shook her head. Although we are considered the second most powerful amongst the overlords, everyone knows that is only on the surface. Our sect has the most profound foundation, our luck and destiny are the most condensed, and more importantly, we have something the bastard has been lusting for many years. The Trinity Venerable Inheritance, Wang Wei thought. So, whether you exist or not, that bastard will target us someday. I understand, Wang Wei nodded. Send a message to the sect. If there are signs that cultivators' longevity can be improved by killing mortals, they need to create an alliance with other sealed lineages to make rules that this practice is forbidden. They must create a task force to kill anyone who disobeys. No problem, Yin Hai nodded. One more thing, well, two more things. First, try to see if you can still contact the people in limbo or even if you can revive them, Wang Wei added. Secondly, see if you can leave this place through the source chi space. Be careful and don't try it yourself. Yin Hai rolled her eyes. Although she wasn't as bright as these bastards, it did not mean she was stupid. Even a big will become a genius full of wisdom after living as long as her. Get lost, brat. Wang Wei disappeared from the room, teleporting to a desolate area. He closed his eyes briefly before waving his hand to summon countless rare Empyreans and a few paragon ores to build the fanciest altar possible. No response? Could it be that the usage of resources is not under strict limitations? Well, at least, resources that cannot directly raise cultivation. Wang Wei took note of this before finishing the altar. He looked in the direction of the lawless zone. He should be able to hold on a little longer, right? After all, he still has destiny protecting him. He took a few minutes to shower and change clothes before starting the ceremony. In a rare act, Wang Wei followed the proper procedure, including giving sacrifices and kneeling before the altar. Heaven and earth above, the world faces a calamity of longevity. I have created a technique called health-preserving technique, which allows cultivators to live to the limit of 1 yuan epoch. I'm willing to share it with the world, so please accept my sincere offer. The clouds above his head started to condense as if a vision was about to manifest. However, they soon dispersed before condensing again. They repeated this pattern for a while. Wang Wei observed with worry. Come one heavenly Tao, this is your chance to fight back. He watched the changes in the sky for 5 minutes before something happened. Wang Wei's face changed as he acted swiftly. He wore the most formidable armor from the Origin Seal Continent's armory. Boom, boom, boom. Numerous terrifying lightning bolts descended from heaven and earth. All the cultivators who saw this were shocked since this was the first time that most of them saw divine punishment. In the upper dimension, the laws of heaven and earth are more ruthless, so it's rare to see anyone being punished by heaven and earth, especially in such a direct manner. Lawless Zone's entrance. The Earth Emperor, a middle-aged man with short black hair, black and silver clothes, and an icy and domineering aura, looked in the distance. His divine sense has been keeping a watch on Origin Seal City for any signs or movements from Wang Wei, so he noticed the latter the moment he appeared in that deserted area. What is he doing? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. What a strange and unique path. Most people would look down on such a Tao, meaning most talented people would not cultivate such a Tao. Non-talented people would not go far, so seeing a paragon with thievery as their Tao was odd. Let's see, there is a plunder aspect of his Tao, similar to devouring Tao. Then there is stealing, Wang Wei analyzed. So, he can steal people's Dao similar to Sun Jianyo's copy? Better yet, it seems he can steal their lives. Wang Wei was shocked. With this ability, Paragon Jimin must have countless identities that are not easy to distinguish. If I can get my hands on his life-stealing technique, I can improve the Fate Guard's ability to steal fate and become someone. Wang Wei's eyes lit up. The current situation was severed, to say the least, so he will take any advantage he can. He continued to observe the battle and frowned. These people's battle experience is not nearly as bad as I expected, he observed. During the past 10,000 yuan epochs, he asked Sun Junyao for her memory of that fight, and based on his analysis, the Blood Dragon seemed to have the worst battle IQ of the group. It's not that he's the worst, but these people have improved in the past 10,000 yuan epochs. The frontier contained countless influential invading foreigners, meaning it was an excellent place to train. Thinking of the frontier, Wang Wei suddenly thought of something, so he looked at the Hong protective system. Who or what is powering that thing? If it's supreme unity, then it's fine. But if Heavenly Dao is forced to use the world source as the power source, this is another way of weakening. Wang Wei's facial expression became grave as he thought of something else. The protection should have no issue blocking the Paragon's coming, but what if this current blockade forced the foreign half-step Transcendents to move earlier than anticipated? Damn it, Supreme Unity, are you playing with fire? Wang Wei cursed. Unless that's what you want. Use foreign aid to continue weakening Heavenly Dao, thus allowing you to control it and ultimately make up for your flaw. Then there is you, Mithria. How can you be so useless? Aren't you supposed to balance him? Wang Wei had to control himself not to let his thoughts flow out publicly. He calmed down and focused on the fight. Sometimes he truly found his intelligence a curse. There were too many things he knew that he wished he did not. Time is running out, Wang Wei said as he focused on the battle, focusing on Time Eater. His eyes could tell the latter was league different from the others. In fact, Wang Wei could tell he was hiding his incompetence and did not fully show all he was capable of. A man with deep thoughts and scheming. However, why was he like this? From the information I gathered about him, he was not this extraordinary or capable during the Golden Era, Wang Wei analyzed. In that era, Time Eater was talented, but he never truly reached the upper echelons. Moreover, he never showed any signs of being a master manipulator. Was he someone like Supreme Unity, always hiding, or did something happen in the middle to change him? Wang Wei desperately wanted to know the answer to this question. Maybe I should use the opportunity to ask the Star Sage. Wang Wei sighed before directing his gaze toward the hidden master, Old Man Dai. The latter stood in the void, his facial expression showing his anxiety. However, he did not rush to help Paragon Jimin. He couldn't even if he wanted to, since Time Eater had a clone/projection prepared especially for him. Paragon Jimin, I've come to make a deal with you, Wang Wei secretly communicated. That voice, Wang Wei? It's me, he acknowledged. I'll save you and, no need, Paragon Jimin said. Wang Wei observed him from a distance and shook his head. What an idiot, he said directly to Jimin. I guess I shouldn't be surprised since you're a loose cultivator. What do you mean by this? Do you think these people haven't won against you because of how weak they are in the lawless zone? You're dreaming. Wang Wei did not hide the sneer in his voice. They are buying time to find your time mark to erase you from the timeline. Time mark? As soon as he thought of these words, Paragon Jimin acquired some basic information about the concept. That's right. You just became a paragon, meaning you don't know much about time marks or have a chronospirit. It's only due to your destiny that they haven't completely figured it out yet, but it's only a matter of time. By then, they can isolate your influence from the primordial timeline, go to the past, and erase younger versions of yourself. Once that happens, it won't matter how many ways you have to survive as a boundless paragon. An intense horror ran deep down Paragon Jimin's back. The confidence he had acquired after becoming a paragon was instantly shattered. Luckily, he received the news now, or he would have died before even knowing what had happened. What do you want? He asked Wang Wei. Despite the turmoil going on in his mind and the conversation, Paragon Jimin showed no signs on the surface. As someone who considered himself the best thief in the world with countless identities, he was a master of acting and hiding his emotions or thoughts. It seems you've awakened from the confidence of suddenly acquiring such power. Good. We can talk now, Wang Wei said, nodding in satisfaction. No matter who it is, they will become a little arrogant after becoming a paragon, primarily due to the vast difference in power between the previous realm. I want two things, Wang Wei continued. Firstly, I want your life-stealing technique. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1337 Negotiation and Action Life Stealing Technique? Paragon Jimin thought before realizing the latter was talking about his existence-stealing spell. Jimin hesitated after hearing this request. His technique was not unique since he knew there were different ways to achieve the same effect. However, he has gotten away with it for so many years due to his Dao. Thievery is a minor Dao, meaning most people do not expect much from it, given its unpopularity or unknownness. Because of this unfamiliarity, people haven't figured out his technique. If more people started using this technique, its effects would be reduced. I agree with your request, but only you can use it, Paragon Jimin decided. That's not possible, Wang Wei replied. He needed to use it for his fake guards. Although he would fuse it with his own technique, he did not want any restrictions on its utilization. I understand your reservation, but after today many people will know about your Dao. They will be precautious, so if you don't update that technique, most of your other identities will be discovered. Jimin was quiet. He knew Wang Wei was correct. He sighed. Fine. What else? Secondly, I need you to sacrifice yourself to curse one of these people, Wang Wei stated. I thought you came to rescue me, Paragon Jimin sneered. I do, but how I do it is up to me. And how is this saving me? Let's not play useless mind games, Wang Wei continued. With a clever person like you, I'm sure you anticipated, to some extent, how dangerous becoming a paragon in the current political climate would be. So, I'm willing to bet all my wealth that one of your true avatars has a peak Empyrean cultivation realm. So, even if you die, that avatar would not take long to return to the Paragon realm. Paragon Jimin was briefly quiet. His mind remembered the first time he had met that young man. He knew the latter was extraordinary, and he even predicted the latter might be the chosen one that would end this era. Paragon Jimin sighed. You're right. However, if being rescued required me to abandon this body, what's the point of you helping me? I can just do it myself. Try it. Excuse me? I say try to end your life to see if you can, Wang Wei reiterated. Jimin's heart skipped a beat as if he thought of something. He observed his opponent briefly before a look of determination flashed in his eyes. His fighting became more reckless while his soul was brewing to explode itself. Have you become impatient, or did you realize something? Time Eater suddenly said. He waved his hand, and Jimin's preparation to blow himself was dismissed. Well, it doesn't matter either way. The group continued besieging him while Time Eater continued to trace the latter's time mark. The process should have ended by now, but Jimin's destiny was working extra hard to keep him alive. Do you see now? Wang Wei said. Fine, I agree with your terms, Jimin said. The latter was an extremely ambitious person and held a noble status/destiny as this era's first paragon. Wang Wei feared he would take some of his destiny as the era's son, and used his status to gather more people on his side. Although Wang Wei did not care much about this destiny, and after his actions, Heavenly Dao should have understood he was the best chance at surviving, he did not want to take any risks. After all, there is still the possibility that Heavenly Dao will spread a large net, trying to cultivate more people to help it. Wang Wei wanted all the luck, destiny and blessing for himself, so Jimin had to go. The time it takes the latter to return to his peak and even deal with the repercussions of using that curse is enough for Wang Wei to spread his fame, gather more people, and guarantee his status as an era son. Although things look bleak now, many of my previous plans can still work. I only need to put more focus on dealing with Supreme Unity, Wang Wei analyzed. After what happened, he realized his mistake. He should never have relied too much on Mithreya. At least he should have expected her failure. Unfortunately, he placed all his focus on the parasites while believing she was more than capable of balancing him. You're back. Good. Wang Wei looked at Yanhai and asked, what was the result? Everything is fine on the sex side, Yanhai replied. As for the other? Well, it has become 1,000 times more challenging to contact them in limbo, and from what they said, they can't revive now. Challenging to contact? Meaning it's still possible? Wang Wei asked. Yes, but with a price. It's good to hear, Wang Wei nodded. One of his plans was to bring about the return of the people in limbo in advance, but now he had to abandon this plan. Such a major shift to the plan should have dealt a significant blow to his plans, but he was adaptable. What about the source chi space? You can enter but you can't return. Wang Wei frowned. The source chi space is an omnipresent dimension that can be accessed from all chaos worlds in the universe. However, this thing is so vast that navigation is a nightmare. When most people enter, they must leave an anchor in a world to return to. However, Supreme Unity's lock seemed to have erased all anchors, preventing anyone from returning after entering the space. This is not entirely bad news, Wang Wei commented. How is that any good news? Now I have another way to deal with these parasites, Wang Wei calmly replied. As long as he exiled them into the source chi space, they'd be lost and might even die there. Wang Wei doesn't believe the lock would not take into account things like longevity resources, so even if they revive themselves, it should be inside the source chi space instead of returning home. You are really Brother Qiyuan's descendants? Yan Hai suddenly commented. Throughout their long lives they had been in many despairing situations, but Qiyuan always remained calm and found a positive aspect. By the way, I've checked the others, Yan Hai added. Contact with the underworld is blocked. However, there seems to be no problem with the River of Time or the River of Fate. Wang Wei frowned. He wanted to try something but stopped himself as he noticed something. He looked outside Origin Seal City and saw the place was surrounded by soldiers in expensive armor. Time Eater's Time Bandit Army? Check the sect, Yan Hai said, and Wang Wei also saw the Dao opening sect being surrounded. He analyzed the situation and realized what was happening. He sneered before muttering, "You have the right idea but looking in the wrong direction." That insolent brat, Yan Hai cursed. "I'm about to leave this place. Ancestor, what are you going to do?" "I've returned to the peak of the Empyrean, so I should return to the sect," Yan Hai commented. "However, I'm worried about the Origin Seal continent. So I'll stay here until Wu Hong returns." The Dao opening sect has a much deeper foundation, so she's not worried about them, but she cannot say the same for this place. Good. If you need anything, contact me, Wang Wei said before handing her control over the continent. However, he realized he was doing too much, as Yan Hai already had access. Wang Wei activated the newly updated Heaven Deception Array and used every other hiding technique he knew before returning to the Dao burial ground. Wang Wei sent the message for the team to meet him in half an hour since he wanted to check a few things beforehand. He closed his eyes and used his position as the Earth Emperor to check on Samsara/Underworld. The result was negative. Wang Wei then tried another approach. He summoned the souls of the devil cultivators he previously used as an experiment, trying to revive them. The result was the same. So, from now on, the relationship between the world of the living and the world of the dead is a one-way ticket. Such a situation is ideal for the underworld, which is fed up with all these cultivators capable of playing with life and death as they please. However, this situation is terrible news for Wang Wei since there are many methods he can no longer use, and he cannot rely on his powerful grandmother. Wang Wei was deep in thought. What about fate and time? Did he really do nothing to them? He did not think the latter would leave such a loophole. I don't expect him to be able to interfere directly with the operations of these things, but there should be some hindrance, right? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1339 Oversight. What would I do if I were him? Wang Wei asked himself. Paragons can escape to other timelines, so I would have blocked this path. However, the world doesn't have other paragons who want to escape. Furthermore, I don't think Mithria is so incapable that she would allow him to interfere completely with the River of Time. Additionally, the River of Time is required to eliminate resistance from the everlasting Empyreans. That would explain why nothing is wrong with it, but what about the River of Fate? Wang Wei was not arrogant enough to think Supreme Unity was not strong enough to interfere in the affairs of fate. Recent events have shown him how powerful half-step transcendents are, and Supreme Unity is of the lowest tier. So, he analyzed the situation, trying to deduce any logical or illogical explanation. Information interference, Wang Wei deduced. I used Fate Dao for all my divinations, so maybe Supreme Unity can intercept all the information I divined. Better yet, maybe he can modify them and give me false prophecies. Wang Wei frowned. If that were true, he'd have to abandon using all his means of divination. He cannot even use his yin-yang calculation since that method calculates the secrets of heaven and earth, but Supreme Unity controls heaven and earth. The only method left for Wang Wei was to either get the information the old-fashioned way or use Heaven Dao to access Heavenly Dao's records. However, my expertise is not Heaven Dao. More importantly, there is a possibility that Supreme Unity can also feed my false records. Wang Wei grunted. He did not want to give up on the River of Fate since that would mean reducing one of his most extraordinary means of getting information. In that case, I need an outside and uncorrupted source of power, Wang Wei thought. The Origin Seal Continent's River of Fate. Wang Wei frowned as this method may not be as reliable as he thought. After all, Wu Hong was a paragon when she made that thing, so there is no guarantee that it can escape manipulation from Supreme Unity. In that case, the best I can do is to take any divination I made and filter them through the Origin Seal Continent. Although such information is probably only 30% reliable, it's better than nothing. Wang Wei sighed. He really did not like the situation. As someone who pursues freedom, he hates nothing more than cages. Sadly, this world has turned into precisely that. Wang Wei noticed his people who had entered the room. His gaze focused on Monk. The latter's aura was chaotic, and Wang Wei sensed his weakened blood energy. However, this was not his main concern. Taboo realm? You've succeeded? Thanks to you, Monk nodded. Sadly, I was injured as soon as I succeeded. The former barbarian king can be said to be both extremely lucky and unlucky. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. At first, he accepted the latter's inclusion because merit was involved, but after the lock, it's not guaranteed whether their actions will have any benefit. In that case, let's move, Wang Wei declared. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. His golden body has almost reached the second level, and the next time he receives the reward for reviving Buddhism in the lower dimension, he should achieve a second level. The other monks followed him, and they were also first-level golden body with Empyrean realm cultivation, but they were all in the late or peak stages, similar to Wang Wei. With the addition of these three people reinforcing Sage Pure Flame, the seal's flaw was made up, thus changing the situation. The barrier, which had previously stopped, immediately started shrinking again, forcing Time Eater to take drastic measures. He released all his powers to force the sealing process to stop temporarily. He gazed at Wang Wei. I guess I should have expected such a move from you. Time Eater had to admit that he had lost in their first confrontation. He acknowledged it but would not admit it was because he was not as intelligent as the latter. His defeat was the result of a lack of information and circumstances. He did not know as much about Wang Wei as he thought, and he did not have the time to plan or anticipate his opponent's next move while he was on the frontier. Wang Wei did not pay him any mind. Instead, he focused on completing the seal. Time Eater turned to Emperor Kong. Are you sure you want to do this? Wang Wei has the Dao opening sect as a safety net in case something goes wrong, but you'll lose everything you've built so far as long as you make one wrong move. Emperor Kong remained quiet. Time Eater was telling the truth, but that was not enough for him to get in bed with him. The chances of making the wrong move drastically increased by being on Time Eater's side rather than being his enemy. The situation looked hopeless, but Emperor Kong knew that his future was only guaranteed by betting on Heavenly Dao. If Supreme Unity wins, he does not want to think about what future awaits him or the Academy. Plus, as Su Shi said, it's always a good thing to bet on Wang Wei's side, Emperor Kong thought as he continued his actions to complete the seal. Time Eater turned to Sage Lin Qi, but he did not even bother, leaving only the last group. He scrutinized the monks briefly before focusing on Sage Pure Flame. You have no bone in this fight, right? Time Eater said. You're probably here because these people promised you some benefits. Let me guess, merit? I think I'm right. However, in the current situation the merit system is malfunctioning to say the least, so what's the point of working so hard for nothing? Just like the others, Pure Flame remained quiet. However, no one knew whether it was because he was not tempted or out of fear that if he took action, the monks behind him would annihilate him with one strike. Time Eater looked at Pure Flame before glancing at the others. His gaze then shifted to the outside. As expected, I cannot rely on these people. He looked around, analyzing the situation. Is this my only option in this scenario? He was unwilling to reveal one of his trump cards so early, but Time Eater knew he might not have a choice. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Wang Wei knew he would have suffered had he tried to plan the latter's downfall without knowing this piece of information. It's good that we know more about our opponent, but this is not helping our current situation, Emperor Kong said. Kong's right. Let's proceed to the next step, Wang Wei announced. This may be the only way to seal Time Eater truly. But what if that doesn't work? Sage Pure Flame suddenly asked. Well, use backup C. Which is? He asked in confusion, and he was not the only one. The plan only reached backup B. You'll know when we get there, Wang Wei replied. Emperor Kong frowned before suddenly thinking of something. I understand, he said, a hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes. Sacrifices are necessary in these times of great trouble, Sage Lin Qi nodded, acquiescing. Wang Wei looked at this old man, not thinking he was this sharp. However, it made sense. After all, Sage Lin Qi's actions must have offended many people. Even with the golden body of merit, some people would dare scheme against him. After all, even if they cannot kill him, they can seal him. However, the old man remained alive and continued his work, which showed he was not simple. Let's get started, Wang Wei said, and everyone started to recite a few words. The world is in chaos. Destiny has been stolen and shackled. The world needs freedom, which cannot be achieved until the perpetrators are dealt with. And my name is a sage. I, Wang Wei, insert name, shall seal this evildoer to give hope to heaven and earth. There are many positions or titles between heaven and earth, many of which have certain authorities. For example, the Earth Emperor has full access to the underworld and can even request a direct meeting with one of the Yama Kings. The position of sage also has certain authority or power, mainly to protect the world or guide it in a better direction. These 7 people are mobilizing this authority to seal Time Eater. Such an approach would have been quick and easy a few hours ago, but after the lock? Their authority is a power granted by heaven and earth or heavenly Tao to be directed. So, the issue now is whether they can still mobilize its power. Wang Wei looked at the sky, waiting with bated breath. The others were immediately worried, but he and Emperor Kong, who both already cultivated their paragon souls, could detect a recognizable power trying to be mobilized from heaven and earth. However, it's also apparent that something else was intercepting it. Luckily, a golden light descended from the sky after a few seconds and turned into golden chains surrounding the barrier. The seal was completed. However, Wang Wei frowned. The seal did not shrink but remained the size of Time Eater's humongous body. This difference might not appear much to others, but he knew the difference. As long as you have enough knowledge/accomplishment in the field, you can gain anything, with the proper sacrifice. Time Beast's blood is extremely valuable, even more so for the blood essence from their heart. Time Eater bypassed the seal with this sacrifice and temporarily controlled the Qi Luck Dragon. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1343 Wins and Losses Under Time Eater's control. The dragon resisted the spear's power. After a few clashes, it became apparent that the spear would eventually lose before the effect of Time Eater's sacrifice ended. Everyone looked at Wang Wei, indicating for him to make his next move. Otherwise, they should think of a solution together. Wang Wei did not disappoint them. He pointed his fingers to condense numerous karmic lines that rushed to different points throughout the Eternal Ascension world. Emperor Kong frowned because he was the first to realize to whom these lines connected: the people from Sun Jianyo's party. The ancients were wise when they warned not to mess with a karma master, Emperor Kong complained. Cultivators with high attainment in karma Tao are a pain to deal with. After meeting them only once, they can create a karmic connection between them. With those connections, a master can do many things, including spying, controlling, stealing, etc. Wang Wei was only in the same room as these people, and he could form karma links between him and them. With these threads, Wang Wei summoned a projection from the river of time of Sun Junyo's Spear of Destiny. An illusory spear slowly condensed before him, but Wang Wei soon frowned. He detected many people trying to resist, so he snorted coldly to send them a warning. Numerous people worldwide suddenly spewed a large mouthful of blood. Wang Wei sneered as he continued his actions. If these people could activate Paragon formations in their locations, they might be able to stop him. However, with his current strength, they would have never detected that he was borrowing their destiny if not for his being in a hurry. He calmly looked at the spear. His original thought was to borrow these people's destiny to bless his destiny spear. However, Wang Wei's instinct told him there might be some form of interference. So, he used his time Dao and the River of Time to achieve a similar effect. He waved his hand, and the imaginary spear fused with the genuine one. The Qi Luck dragon roared in agony, followed by an intense killing gaze. Wang Wei followed the source and saw Time Eater's humongous eyes. "Why don't you keep sacrificing?" he taunted. "With such a big body, you should have plenty of blood." Time Eater quietly looked at him. Is he trying to trick me into weakening myself, or is this a bluff? There is a chance that Wang Wei has no more moves, and if he pays the price he may be able to save that Qi Luck dragon. However, Time Eater was unsure, and more importantly he did not want to take the risk. "Damn it," he cursed. "It's been so long and there has been such a large movement, but none of these people have come to help." After a brief pause, Time Eater decided to accept this loss, especially since he knew things would not end so quickly. Some people wanted to save this Qi Luck dragon more than him. Chapter 1344 Worst Case Scenario. Wang Wei did not wait to hear how much wealth he had plundered. After returning to the Dao burial ground, he immediately entered a cultivation retreat to heal his injuries. He's been suppressing his injuries for a while now since time was urgent, but now he finally could no longer hold on. As soon as he sat down, he swallowed numerous pills before using the healing technique he created after purveying his future wife's library, Time Phoenix Nirvana Art. A white and black flame enveloped his body, releasing an enormous amount of life and death energy that entered his existence, and healed the underlying problems. Once the life and death energy reached a certain level, they formed a yin-yang symbol that controls the time concept of forward and backward. Then Wang Wei's body was slowly reverting to the time before his existence was affected. Ordinary injuries can be instantly reverted with this method. In fact, Wang Wei's natural regeneration was so terrifying that he did not even need any Dao or techniques to heal. However, it was different for Dao injuries or even more severe existence injuries. Wang Wei frowned as he watched how slow the process was. "At this rate, I won't be back to peak state even after 500,000 yuan epochs." Such a number was small. Wu Hong and Yen Hai were injured before the 7 moon eras but still haven't recuperated. In comparison, Wang Wei's injury was minor. Unfortunately, he could not wait so long. The following 1 yuan epoch will be crucial. If I'm not present to stop supreme unity, heaven knows what the world will be like by the time I recuperate. Wang Wei sighed. He absorbed the merit he previously received, trying to accelerate his recovery speed. He then calculated his recovery time. The merit worked, reducing his time to 33,000 yuan epochs. Still too long, Wang Wei thought. Countless thoughts flashed in his eyes. He needed a method to heal in just a few thousand years, possibly a few hundred. Wang Wei immediately outlined countless methods, but with each method he became more frustrated. There is no perfect solution. He must pay a serious price if he wants to heal in such a short period. He waved his hand to summon his golden body of merit. If I sacrifice some of it, I should recuperate in a few decades. However, this golden body will no longer be a peak second tier. It will take a long time to recuperate. Wang Wei gritted his teeth. Besides, when he fought with Di Tian, he had never suffered so much in his life. Reducing the effect of the golden body for a short recovery was an excellent price, but Wang Wei felt it was too much. He hated more than losing his things. He could accept defeat in battle but not lose in stuff like this. Supreme unity, I'll remember this. One day I'll make you pay, Wang Wei thought with gritted teeth. Wait, paying a price. He slapped his forehead, thinking how stupid had been. Could the previous small setbacks affect me? How can I not think of such a simple thing? Wang Wei focused and started. Someone must pay a price for his recovery, but he did not have to be the one to pay it. A simple approach would be to share the price by the Wang clan through bloodline. As long as everyone shares, the price or backlash won't be much. However, Wang Wei would not do this since he had a better option. Let his enemy pay. He is a master of karma, and that's one of the things he's good at. Wang Wei waved his hands to build a rune in the air. He focused intently on creating a new technique that combined time Dao, karma Dao, and the way of sacrifice. He took his time to modify each rune, and after an unknown amount of time, the runes combined together into a magic circle that released intense green light. The magic circle then turned into a projection of the river of time. The power of time washed over Wang Wei's body, and his complexion returned to normal. In a matter of seconds, this terrifying injury was healed. However, were things so simple? Of course not. The river of time's projection suddenly collapsed before transfiguring into a clock that rushed into Wang Wei's body. He removed the upper part of his robe to check his chest. As expected, he had a new tattoo of a clock that was slowly counting down. At the end of this clock was a picture of a skull. 33,333 years, it's lower than I expected, Wang Wei uttered. That's how long he has to repay his debt for suddenly healing, or he experiences true death. Moreover, the repayment cannot be random, it must be something valuable. It doesn't matter. It's more than enough time, Wang Wei said as he looked in the distance. A paragon's soul should be more than enough to pay the price for his actions. He walked out of the room and checked how much time had passed. 525 years, he thought. His healing process was instant as soon as his borrowed time technique was created. However, the process of the creation took over 2,500 years inside the time formation. He immediately summoned the team. Monk was the first to arrive, and his complexion was as rosy as a rose. His aura was peaceful, and as Wang Wei expected, his strength reached the peak of 90%. It seems your injuries were not as severe as I thought, Wang Wei said. I was lucky, Monk nodded. His injuries almost reached the level of existence. He did not know whether it was because he had just entered the battle taboo realm, so heaven and earth protected him, or was it just the manifestation of his luck. Regardless, he was lucky. I envy you, Wang Wei sighed. Monk looked at him in puzzlement. If his injuries were so severe, why did he look perfectly all right? He shook his head. He did not think too long about it since he couldn't figure it out. Soon everybody arrived. Tell me what happened? The situation is as you predicted, Wang Qi said, making Wang Wei's heart skip a beat. It can even be said to be worse. The mortals? Yes, Wang Qi nodded before explaining everything. The cultivators panicked after realizing their lifespan cannot increase without increasing their realm. At first, everybody started to compete for longevity and immortal pills. The prices of these pills soon reached an astronomical number in just the first 2 decades. Wang Qi was not exaggerating. He once participated in an auction in which an emperor bought a pill that increased lifespan by 10,000 years for 5 emperor artifacts. That's how outrageous the prices became. Then rumors started circulating at an alarming rate that people could increase their lifespan by absorbing mortals' flesh, blood, and souls. No one took this news seriously, especially since we, along with the hidden lineages, intervened and spread false information to blur out this news. However, everything changed when the devil cultivators started killing mortals in large quantities. After that, it was impossible to hide the truth. Wang Wei grunted, what about the sect's alliance? Our sect, along with many hidden lineages, including Buddhism and the barbarian clan, announced the creation of the Mortal Protection Force. They publicly denounced any such act and even killed anyone discovered participating in such behavior. From your tone, I'm guessing something went wrong? Wang Wei asked. This world is too large, Wang Qi commented. At first they were indeed a deterrent. However, things took an unexpected turn. Someone created this hiding technique that can even escape from a peak of Empyrean's divine sense. Additionally, we've discovered that methods like divination, yin-yang calculation, and karma detection no longer work for those people who participate in those massacres. Wang Wei wanted to roll his eyes. Supreme Unity was not even trying to hide its purpose anymore. What's the overall situation? There are only a few territories where mortals are protected. Moreover, not all of the top hidden lineages have joined. Some people are indifferent and just watching, and some people are using this opportunity to cause more chaos. What about the parasites? How do they treat the mortals in their territories? Besides the Earth Emperor who prevents anyone from touching his citizens, the others don't care. Some even partake in it. What about the mortal civilization? 500 years was more than enough time to show some progress. However, Wang Qi shook his head. We've spread it in our territories, but these parasites and other cultivators have intervened to block our actions once we try to globalize the process. The Enlightening Temple? Even worse, Wang Qi said. Only a sage can build the temple, and the reach is limited to a certain area. He's really cut off all our paths, hasn't he? Wang Wei sneered. I asked you to build the dream world. I guess that didn't work as well? As soon as it appeared, it was blasted by lightning bolts. Wang Wei sighed. He looked at his group. All of you have known this situation for a while. Any suggestions? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1345 Terrible Solutions. The situation is way worse than stated, Monk commented. The merit system has been locked despite Buddhism's efforts. Wang Wei raised his eyes and looked at the sky. He could detect the slight fluctuations that indicate a struggle. Heavenly Tao wants to reward them for spreading the mortal civilization, but something is stopping it. Well, fighting is better than no response at all, Wang Wei thought. Heavenly Tao was silent when the lock first appeared, which scared him and indicated it had lost most of its authority. However, it is now constantly fighting, which is a sign of strength. What happened to my cultivation technique? Wang Wei asked. He previously spread the health preservation technique, baffling him as to why the situation turned so sour in such a short period. It has been corrupted, Dugu said. She was in charge of this matter, so she knew the most. What do you mean? Well, it started with the spreading process. As you can imagine, these parasites intervened to block it, Dugu explained. We sent one of the Paragon puppets to try to scare them, but they replied with their own puppets. Of course, all of these were not the main reason your attempt became ineffective. What did that bastard do again? Wang Wei asked, not hiding his sneer. The rules of heaven and earth were changed, Dugu explained. All longevity techniques have become more difficult to cultivate. People can only break through when they are in the twilight of their years, and each breakthrough can increase their lifespan by 10,000 years. Wang Wei's face was ugly to look at. Now, if an ordinary person used his technique, they would have to wait until they are 9,000 years old before they can make a breakthrough and extend their lifespan. Since this technique allows people to live one yuan epoch, 269 trillion years, the technique was essentially divided into billions of layers. No wonder no one wants to cultivate it. Wang Wei clenched his fists. He was feeling frustrated. The current situation feels like he's playing chess with someone, but while he has to play by the rules, the opponent not only does not, but he can also invent the rules to turn things in his favor. Wang Wei exhaled to calm down. Being overly emotional will not help in the current situation. On the contrary, it will probably increase his chances of making a great mistake. You guys still haven't told me what your ideas to solve the situation is, Wang Wei said. After knowing the overall situation, he has some plans in mind. However, he wanted to see if they had something better or, at the very least, could inspire him. In the current situation, we may have to consider killing all the world's cultivators and saving the mortals, Monk said. Wang Wei did not comment and just listened. That is too extreme, Jiaping disagreed. Is it? Monk asked. I think our focus should be outlasting these cultivators. We only need to protect as many mortals as possible, and in a yuan epoch most of them will die. Wang Wei did not say anything and looked at everybody else. However, no one had other solutions, so he was left with thoughts. These people's solutions are good, but they are only superficial. Wang Wei wanted to save the mortals and cultivators and completely ruin Supreme Unity's plan, meaning none of their approaches were feasible. He closed his eyes to activate his soul network ability. He saw all the members of the fate-changing hall, but that was the extent of his network. He could no longer access other souls. That bastard truly blocked all my paths. Wang Wei opened his eyes while frowning. Right now, my main move should be to give the mortals the power to protect themselves, and that means spreading the mortal civilizations. However, the issue is how to spread it throughout this vast land as soon as possible. Once the mortals can protect themselves, the cultivators will be restrained. In the worst-case scenario, A civil war will happen, which may not be a bad thing since war is one way to facilitate the development of civilizations. With the improvement of the mortal civilization through war, the reward Wang Wei will receive after this event will be even higher. Of course, that is, if the mortals can last long enough. Under normal circumstances, that would be impossible. But now, with the support of other cultivators, they have a chance. Alright, I know what to do, Wang Wei said. He looked at Monk. Prepare for an all-out battle. I understand, Monk nodded in excitement. Wang Wei dismissed everybody except for Red Mask. What's Pure Flame's situation? We haven't been able to infiltrate his cultivation dojo, but from the information we've gathered and analyzed about him, the conclusion is that he kept that black power and is studying it. Oh. The analysis is that he plans to take advantage of the current situation to spread this thing and purify it to gain merit, Red Mask continued. His talent can only take him as far as the Empyrean realm, and merit is his only way forward. A killing intent flashed in Wang Wei's eyes. How sure are you? 80%. Wang Wei squinted. If what you say is true, he probably won't act anytime soon since the merit system is still in limbo. He might be waiting for me or someone else to fix it to a certain level before he starts to act. Red Mask nodded. That's the same conclusion the Fate Guard made. Sir, do you want me to eliminate him? Although they have only suspected Sage Pure Flame and did not have concrete evidence, they were not officials. Suspicions were enough to eliminate someone as long as they were a threat. You're really bold, Wang Wei said looking at him. This woman dares talk about killing a sage. There is a saying in the world, only a sage can kill a sage. The backlash is not something that anyone can bear, and even sages cannot kill each other without proper reasons. As long as you ordered it, Red Mask said calmly. No need. He's still extremely valuable, Wang Wei said. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1346 The Solution. After dismissing everybody, Wang Wei did not immediately leave. He had many things to do, but he needed to do things step by step, so he stayed for a few hours to review the detailed information gathered by the guard during his absence. He knew about the world's current situation through the team's meeting, but that was not enough. He needed to understand the nitty-gritty. Wang Wei put away the information talisman and frowned. As long as Supreme Unity has any form of autonomy, I can't even deal with these parasites. He had many plans to deal with these people, but as long as that bastard was present, the chances of success were minor. My ultimate goal is to remove his ability to make any moves on the board, Wang Wei thought. He refined the plan he came up with before contacting a few people. Wang Wei headed to another isolated dimension, and a few minutes later the other sages arrived, except for Pure Flame. Wang Wei immediately noticed Feng Heng's arrival. Firstly, he expected the other Buddhist sages to be with him, but he was alone. Second, his aura was slightly different from before. Second-level golden body? Wang Wei asked. Donor has sharp senses as always, Feng Heng replied. But how is that possible? The rewards from the lower dimensions should still take some time, unless... Everyone looked at Feng Heng. This world still has hope, Feng Heng explained, his face and demeanor calm and peaceful. Heavenly Tao has rewarded this poor monk for benefiting mortals' way of life. Really? Good, Wang Wei said, not hiding his excitement. Although Feng Heng was the only one among them who received merit for the mortal civilization, he and the others did not care. Instead, they value that the system is still working, which indicates that Heavenly Tao is still fighting and that their battle is not utterly hopeless. This is indeed excellent news, Sage Lin Qi said. If you think about it carefully, he might be the only choice to receive the merit, Emperor Kong suddenly said. Wang Wei's eyes lit up after hearing this. Kong was correct. Feng Heng became a medium for Mithreya to channel her power in the world, so Heavenly Tao took this opportunity to find allies. Feng Heng, by any chance, can you contact the Mother Buddha? Wang Wei asked. Donor, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed. Wang Wei sighed. It's fine. He did not have much expectations. Alright, let's get to business. I call you here to ask for help. Normally, I don't ask without reciprocation, but you guys understand the current situation. Since the lock, many things that were once extremely valuable are no longer sought after. Even merit can no longer be acquired. People could no longer cultivate, meaning these resources were less tempting to anyone. As for hoarding these resources for the future, no one knows whether the world has a future. Even if it does, no one can predict how terrible it will be. There is no need to mention such a thing during dire times, Sage Lin Qi said. He did not want anything except to expand his work, and the best way to proceed with it was for the world to return to normal and to have someone of sufficient power and background helping. Wang Wei was from the Tao opening sect, and if the latter was willing to give him some help, he could do so much more. If Sage Lin Qi could think in a more utilitarian manner, having Wang Wei's goodwill and even owning him a favor was way more valuable than any reward. Feng Heng and Emperor Kong nodded. However, their mindsets were completely different. The former honestly did not care about rewards. After accomplishing his grand merit in the lower dimension, Feng Heng's state of mind sublimated. He no longer cared about the quarrels and disputes of the cultivation world. His only desire is to understand the Dharma and seek enlightenment. Everything he does is follow his heart and achieve that goal. Meanwhile, Emperor Kong was the one who wanted a reward the most. After all, Feng Heng was from Buddhism, meaning he was rich, and Sage Lin Qi was a man of pure heart, making his thinking less utilitarian. However, he had an academy to look after and people to feed. Of course, he was wise and understood the need to build good relations and connections. However, if it were up to him, he would love to have a reward and make connections. "I'll keep today's events in my heart," Wang Wei said. He waved his hand to hand them a talisman. "Consider this as a gift." Everyone checked the content and was surprised by this heaven deception array. This was indeed a gift, especially in these times of perils. I understand his charm, Emperor Kong thought. He understood what made Wang Wei so attractive. The latter is indeed cunning and will play with you as a toy if it's in his interest, but if you are his allies and are willing to work for him, he will not shy away from giving you benefits. Emperor Kong thought of all the things he could do with this array. There were many, but the most important one was to hide. Since his betrayal, the parasites have been searching for him relentlessly. Countless branches have been attacked and destroyed. Now he finally had a way to hide without worry perfectly. No, this is an opportunity, Emperor Kong thought. Once he can hide and project himself, he can send his people to recruit talented mortals worldwide. Although these people could not cultivate, he could seal them and wait for a later date. The current situation was perfect to recruit talents. Sage Lin Qi calmly accepted this gift. With this array, he can protect many more mortals and his people can better act behind the scenes. The greatest trouble his association often faced was how the rulers of certain territories refused to help or even hinder his work. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1347 All the Preparations, unedited chapter? You want to spread the mortal civilization through the void illusion realm? Yan Hai asked. Wang Wei was shocked after hearing her words, looking it up and down. Yan Hai's lips twitched before she summoned a bamboo and waved it at him. Wang Wei tried to dodge, but to his surprise the bamboo hit him on his head and the thing hurt like hell. Do you think I'm stupid? Yan Hai asked. Many people thought she was all muscle and no brain, so she had seen these kinds of looks before. Ancestor, I apologize, Wang Wei quickly said. He could not help it. Yan Hai seems to have a temperament that makes people underestimate her intelligence. Yan Hai snorted coldly. What's that bamboo? Wang Wei asked. He had a feeling that no matter what he did, he would not be able to dodge it. Ancestral discipline stick, Yan Hai said with a sneer. I made especially for disobedient descendants like you. As long as you have the blood of the Yan, Li and Yan clan flowing through your blood, you can't escape its punishment. Wang Wei was shocked by these words but shook his head. This was Yan Hai's temperament, so he should not be surprised she made such a thing. Most of the cruel ways the Tao opening sect raised disciples and geniuses are rules she created and left. You don't seem convinced. No, I didn't say anything, Wang Wei swiftly said. It's written in your face that you can find a way to avoid. Unfortunately for you, until you become a primal paragon and gain the title of ancestor, you can never escape. Never? Wang Wei asked, focusing on the absoluteness of her words. Never? Yan Hai reiterated. Then isn't this thing dangerous? Don't worry. It can discipline but never kill, Yan Hai explained. In the past, Some stupid people paid a heavy price to get their hands on it, thinking they could use it to control or eliminate our family. Unfortunately for them, this thing can only be used by the four of us, and it cannot kill any of our bloodlines. I see, Wang Wei said, feeling relief. Although he will have to be careful with his words around the ancestors for now, at least he does not have to worry about a weapon that is the weakness of his bloodline. Let's get back to the topic, Wang Wei said. I know where the seal is, but it won't matter even if you get your hands on it. Wang Wei knew what she meant. According to records, the Void Illusion Realm did not allow mortals to enter. Is there a way? Wang Wei did not read too much about this subject in the library since this was not his main focus. As such, he had to ask. Yan Hai frowned and pondered. Wang Wei waited, but after a few minutes with no answer, he realized he may have to search the library. I remember now, Yan Hai suddenly said. Long ago, even before the endless tribulation era, the ancestor of the Ma family created the Void Illusion Realm.